Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault. And you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the cable.
Is that correct?
I didn't ask you to interrupt. Oh, for Trump's sake.
Good morning. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. Welcome. Good to have you here. Happy Thursday, Podcast Thursday. I've got a hair that's like in my vision, but I can't like grab it. If you guys can point it out to me, that would be great. It's bugging me all morning. Good morning. Let's see. I need another computer to wake up here. Just 1 second. Big shout out to Greeners. First in chat this morning. First in chat comes with a privilege. It's actually a punishment. Greeners, you know what it is. We're going to send it to the internet ownership. You are so eager to be here. Clearly, you want to take over for everybody. At least making sure the internet's good. So wonderful. Okay. Just checking. We have everything. Everything's connected. Do we have camera 6? We have camera 6 even. We've got our counter. Everything is up. It's working for some reason today, which is wonderful. I'll take it. I will take it for sure. Welcome. We're about to start. In just a few minutes, we're going to start the Carly Gregg trial, day 4, part 1 of the Carly Gregg trial, which might take us to closings today. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think it's going to get us to verdict, but I think it'll get us to closings. So. We'll see how that goes. Let's see. Somebody said, I'm looking at the comments here. There were so many people who sat down. All the comments went fast. Oh, Rhett's Mimi said, wow, what is that new here? Rhett, you missed it. I was on vacation for a month and a half at an Airbnb, and I actually took almost all of this with me, except for that screen and that screen. Pretty much everything else came with. Actually, I didn't take that TV either. I used the TV that they had there. And another TV. But did he get some solid sleep last night? No, let's not talk about that. I'll sleep later during the show. You'll see. Good morning. Thank you. We have at least one birthday today. So we're going to sing happy birthday. It's something we do every time we start the show, which is, at least every time we have somebody in chat that has a birthday. Because how sad would it be if you had a birthday and nobody sang to you first thing in the morning?
I saw a chicken fight. Never seen that before.
We do have commands working right now while we wait for everything to start in court. Let's see. Ready there. Camera 7 is not quite ready because I didn't plug it in. Where's camera 7? That's this one. I'm going to gently pull on this cord, find where the end went.
If they didn't, I would lose my mind.
Alex stole it as well.
This has been a fun week. Now that I'm back from vacation, we've been ordering all the things that we couldn't order while we were on vacation because we needed a place for it to ship to, where somebody could pick up the package.
People do not get to have it their way.
Today is a no package day, is my understanding. No packages today, but tomorrow. I get a new, this is more for our family, we got a new piano stand and bench where both are adjustable. We've had, my son plays the piano.
I don't know who won.
It's amazing. He started like two and a half years ago, and he plays really, really well, like really fancy improvisation. The kid's pretty amazing. But our piano stand is like the wrong height. So it's like way taller than it should be, and then our bench is smaller than it should be. So it looks like a midget playing the piano, and he does it really well. But we'd like him to be able to practice on a piano where the height is sort of like more standard and the bench is more standard. So we're getting that. I've been looking at one, and it finally went on sale, and we're like, yay! And it's a cheap one. It's nothing fancy. It's just like a metal rack and a little metal stand.
I'm not a camel.
It's not even one of those dual duet benches or anything, but. The sound you're about to hear, that buffer sound, means that the mods have a message for me, and the message is this right here. There's the buffer. The birthdays for today: Jack Frost, Oscar, Casey, Zach, Action Jackson. I like that name, Action Jackson. Is that like birth certificate name, or is that like this is what we call him? But either way, we're going for it. We're going with it. So we're going to sing happy birthday, and by we, I mean all of us. If this is your first time here, yes, we actually everybody in their own homes or in their own cars or in their shower or wherever else they're listening joins in the birthday song. And we do check. I mean, we can't see you, but I've got a little thing that shows whether or not you're saying or not.
Don't miss the forest for the trees.
So don't skimp on this one. Please join with me, if you will, as we sing happy birthday to these wonderful people. Warm up with me, everybody. La 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 la. There we go. All right. Dancers at the ready. If you're not singing, you have to dance. Those are the rules. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Jack Frost, Oscar, Casey, Zach, and Action Jackson. Happy birthday to you. Jack Frost, Oscar, Casey, Zach, Action Jackson. I can't say Action Jackson. Action Jackson. That's a tough one. That's like a tongue twister. Great name, but tongue twister. Today is your special day. What does that mean? Well, that means that wherever you go that makes pancakes and sells them is going to give them to you for free. You just have to let them know it's your birthday. And it's going to be great. I sing in the bathroom. The bathroom has the best acoustics, Donnie. It really does. Congratulations to all those that are celebrating their birthday. I realize there are a million places you could be, a million people you could celebrate with, but you've chosen to be here with us. Thank you very much. That makes our day. Hopefully we can make your day a little bit more special. Happy womb eviction anniversary. That's one way to look at it. But yes, happy birthday to all who are celebrating. Hope your day is wonderful. Free pancakes, Denny's, IHOP. Burger King doesn't do pancakes, do they? You could ask them, maybe nicely. They might. That's what we've always called him, and it fits. Thank you from Action Jackson. Action Jackson, have a great birthday. Thank you very much. Leslie, thanks for letting us in on the celebration for Action Jackson today. That's a great name. I just like saying it. BK has French toast sticks. Oh, French toast sticks are almost as good as free pancakes. If you can get them free, I'd say, yeah, go for it. Go for it. Let's see. Sneezing Eagle says, cannot believe I have not been following this. Welcome, Sneezing Eagle. We're going to go to court here in just a minute. But first we have, as the birthday song winds down, the party doesn't stop. You hear the drums? That means that we have to do an air drum solo. I know most of y'all can play the air guitar. Air drums are very similar, but here we go. We've got a little ditty we do here at the end. I probably shouldn't say ditty. There it is. Yeah, ditty's probably a word I should remove from my vocabulary, even though I use it in the correct context. With the current news, yeah, but we'll a little bit. There's a little song bit, a little segment of a song we do. Yeah, Diddy's in trouble, and yeah, we can't cover that one, just for the record. All right, we are Diddyless. Let's see. Greener says, Recovery Addict, I'll give you my old air guitar for free. Oh, sweet. No strings attached. See that? No strings attached. I like that, Greeners. I like that a lot. Let's see where. I think we're ready. I think we almost have a video from court. Not quite yet. I need my replay unit. I love this machine. Every day, I like it more and more as I start to learn how to use it. I still have not been posting the shorts that I promised you that I wanted to do with this, but we're getting closer. So I don't think I need any keyboards. Where's the mouse that works? I think it's this one. Yep, that's it. Okay, let's delete. Oh, let's just add to the end. Append. Oh, I have to turn it on. That's why it's not working. So many details here. Append to the end. There we go. Now we've got our instant replays available. Okay, that's going to go right there. All right. Anything else? Oh, I need to start this recording. Boom. That's going to be our feed. For instant replay, import the media. This cool replay machine can actually, it can play back and work with video files before they're completed. And this is interesting because in this particular trial, the Gregg trial, there was security camera footage from inside the house that was shot inside the kitchen that was corrupted. That could not play the file. It was corrupted because the camera was unplugged while it was recording. And so the camera never got to complete the file. This particular replay machine is able to look at files like that and to actually use them. But it's in the way it's recorded. It's not necessarily the same type of file exactly. But you don't have to actually save the file and be done recording with it before you can use it. Like most things require that. Anyway, that's a little nerdy link there for you. I apologize. All right, we see everyone's coming in. Who's ready for today? We are on the rebuttal. Okay, we have the state has had their case in chief, well, most of it. The defense has rested with a couple of their witnesses up on the stand. Carly never testified in her own defense, which is, I think, very smart in this case. It's back to the state. The state we know has 3 shorter witnesses and maybe 1 long witness as far as an expert witness that will take pretty much probably most of today. The next thing that happens after that is closings. There might be some, I'm not sure if the judge does instructions to the jury first and then closings, or closings, then instructions to the jury. But we'll see what happens. Amber is out and about shopping for houses in North Carolina, I think. Let me just say, no. Okay, old houses aren't everything they've cracked up to be. That's all I'll say, Amber. My old house, this old house that I bought before Mrs. R.A. had even seen it, has had a lot of hidden features, or what do you call it? Aftermarket features? No, what are they? Undocumented features. Let's call it that. Where things just go wrong and need to be replaced and fixed. So you'll be back soon. Do a walkthrough. Be thorough, Amber. Look up in the attic. Look for bodies. Not that you want to find one, but they are cracked up. They are very cracked up. This house is very cracked up, his old house. It is. And I'm not looking for, we don't have the tarp on the roof yet. We have to put the tarp on the roof so we can keep the rain from coming in, which is, it might seem, for some of the country, that might be like, holy cow, that's terrible. No, I'm in hurricane land. And blue tarps on roof in Florida, that's just something that happens when a storm comes through. You run out of blue tarps at Home Depot and Lowe's. So, no, she doesn't want to move next to me because, the farms and everything. I don't know. Where are you looking, Amber? If you're willing to share general area, let us know. Hurricane Land, less successful Six Flags venture. Yes, the rides are not as fun. Recently bought my home, 100 years oldish, but it was a flip, and the guy who did it completely dug out and relaid the foundation so nice. Oh, if you do it right, they can be wonderful. As far as craftsmanship goes, old houses are amazing. I love them in some areas. In other areas, I thought, you really thought this would be okay? You just leave the bare wires there in the wall and just call it good? So, oh no, the ventilated roof is terrible. It's terrible. All right, the trial is going to start here in about a minute. Well, about 2 minutes ago, we expect to get possibly some footage, at least of the wall or the seal. The actual trial itself might start in about half an hour. The jury's not going to be there till 8:45, which is Central Time. It's that would be 9:45 our time. But as soon as the jury does arrive, as we've seen from yesterday's lunch episode, where the judge just said, we're just going to be on lunch until the jury's done, and then we start again. The jury sort of drives the show as far as scheduling goes, including with when they need bathroom breaks. There are plenty of blue tarps at our Home Depot, says Kristen. Now's the time to buy one. You have to buy one before you need one, because when you need one, everyone else probably also needs one, and that's when they're not there anymore. Let's see. I'm moving to NC as soon as we find a house. Yes, I like NC. North Carolina has been great to me. The house, not so much. I need to fix inside and out. Yeah, with all the complaints that I've given you, let me tell you some of the good things about our house. We have a wraparound porch, which is just amazing. Big, huge porch. The whole family can hang out there and play, and there's room to spare for a cat to enjoy plenty of free space. We have 11-foot ceilings downstairs, like huge high ceilings, chandeliers in almost every single room, fireplaces in almost every single room, just tons of space. Original hardwood floors with Greek key inlaid designs, with just fancy different colored wood. It's something really neat. We've got stained glass windows, beveled stained glass windows, so they curve. Just all sorts of really, really cool things. Unfortunately, they're all, from 1915. And I think when it was originally built, it didn't have much in the way of plumbing. That was all afterthought. The electricity was afterthought. They put it in, and they used bare knob and wire. So we still have some bare knobs and wires. We're running the electricity in our house, concluding what gets to make our show. Ooh, that's a good book. A friend of mine wrote this. It's called A is for Analytics. It's a children's book for people who want to teach their technology to the kids. B is for break even. C is for correlation. D is for data. E is for ETL, extract, transform, and load. F is for funnel. G is for graph. H is for histogram. These are good things. It probably doesn't roll off the tongue so much when kids are trying to read it. L is for lifetime value. M is for metrics. N is for normal distribution. Oh, good stuff. Good book. If you read the whole book on stream, he'll copyright. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. Anyone else would. You want a copy? I have two. Because I bought one on a Kickstarter. It was like he was publishing his first book. And so I bought a book on the Kickstarter. He shipped them, and he said, look, we found out after we shipped them that the manufacturer messed up on the seam of the book, and some of them are cracking. So I'm going to replace because I don't know if your book was bad or not, I'm going to replace every single book for free. And so he redid every single book properly and sent them out, even though mine was good already. It's just, he said, I can't have a bad product out there. And this is my first book. I need people to like it. So he did great. It's a cool guy. Sarah Boone motions she wants her cell phone back. I don't know if we'll have time to look at this before court starts. But I'll take a quick gander. Let's see, Orange County, right? Orange County Clerk of Courts. Sarah Boone, I'm not a robot. Judge Michael Krenick. Defendant's motion for return of property, or in the alternative, motion for independent exam by defense. Okay, we have a courtroom camera feed at least. So this is where we are in court. I'll keep that pulled up on the air. But we might also look at this Sarah Boone thing really quickly. So I think we got a hot minute before things start. Our MK counter in the bottom right-hand corner is up at 163. MK is, we count every time someone says okay or MK. Usually it's said after a witness provides an answer and the questioner thinks of the next question. And it's happened a lot yesterday. I think we went from like 84 to 163 just yesterday. So that was a lot of MKs. So help keep me honest on that. If I miss one, just tell me what the number should be. You could just say okay counter or okay, or you can just type the number. We don't need everybody typing the number. And if you're doing it, just make sure that you're up to current time.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you for interrupting me. I forgot I had that audio turned on. All right. We don't know what her name is. We'll never know. I don't know what her name is either. Elena K, thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. I will say this again as we start off the day. This is a tough case. We've followed some tough cases in the past. Letitia Stout was a very difficult case. This is a tough one as well because it deals with issues that a lot of people have some experience in. Sadly, some people have a lot of experience in, but it involves kids. It involves mental health. It involves parenting. Things like that. This is a tough one because some of these issues at some point, get very, very personal. We just ask that as we watch this case together, that we be respectful, both to the people who we see on screen. I'd like to include that to include me in that group, and also to each other in chat. We might find people who have a very different opinion than us, who might see the situation completely different. Some people will look at Carly and see pure evil, and other people look at her and say this was clearly the drugs. She had no control over that at all. And we have everything in between, and that's okay. That's what I'll say. That's okay. We don't understand exactly what's happened. I'm glad I'm not on the jury on this one. But we just ask that if you do share your opinion and you find somebody that completely disagrees with you, you don't have to fight it out to the death in chat. Please don't. It's okay to just agree to disagree and go on watching and respectfully sharing opinions. If you are sharing your opinion, you find that it's really hit a nerve with a couple people, you don't have to keep resharing it. We understand, and trust us, a lot of us probably agree with you, but our goal is not to fight it out here in chat. That's not what we do here. So there are some other places where that's more friendly. But I would say there's some other places where that is more approved of. But we ask that in here, we just realize that at the end of the day, at the end of this trial, we're all still friends. We all want to watch court together, and let's try to keep it kind between each other. No name calling at all. Tolerated. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah. And also be mindful. I never thought this would be the case, right? But be mindful that in cases like this, a lot of times we have people in chat who are very closely connected to this case. Whether it's lawyers or people working with the law firm who are watching just to get a read on what the public is doing. Is that a Dr. Pepper? Was she drinking Dr. Pepper? Just curious. Whether it's a lawyer who's trying to get a read on more like a public view, like an insight into what the jury might be thinking. It could be family members of both the defendant and the victim. Looks like Cherry Coke. Not a sponsor, but anyway, so just be mindful of that when we make a comment. Realize there might be somebody who that might be really, really offensive to. So just think it through before we comment, and remember, just be kind. That'll keep everything happy. Squirrel mode live on the air. That is me all the time. I get distracted by a million things. Oh, I was supposed to read Sarah Boone, and now court's beginning. Let me take a quick look. See if it's something we want to read on a break or something. Looks like it's only 2 pages long.
All right, good morning. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, did everyone follow the court's instructions overnight? Did anyone allow themselves to be exposed to any media accounts, any social media, or any news account of this case? Everyone shaking their head in the negative. We will proceed. All right, the defendant having rested, the state may call any witnesses it wishes to call in rebuttal.
The state calls Olivia Luber.
Olivia Luber.
I don't think we're going to have any juveniles in rebuttal, so we should get to see everything that happens here.
Have a seat. You can adjust yourself up to the microphone. You don't have to speak directly into it.
Okay.
But I do need you to speak so that lady in the very back row over there can hear you.
Got it.
You understand that you're now under oath and answers your sworn answer subject to felony perjury. Yes, sir. All right, you may proceed.
If you would, Olivia, introduce yourself to these men and women.
I'm Olivia Luber,
And Olivia, where do you work?
Precise Mind.
And tell us a little bit about what Precise Mind is.
It's an outpatient mental health clinic, and we do research and mental health care for all ages.
Just to be clear, you're a little nervous today, right?
Yes, yeah, I am.
Is this your first time to ever testify?
Yes.
All right. How do you, and what is your role at Precise?
I'm a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner.
And can you kind of tell us a little bit about what that is and what you do?
Yeah. I got a degree with a master's degree in advanced nursing practice. So I chose to specialize in psychiatric mental health. The nurse practitioner program requires 1,200 hours of clinical practice, and we have to do different specialty groups, have experience with different specialty groups like geriatrics, adolescents, outpatient and inpatient psychiatry. So it's just a specialized nurse practitioner role, provider role.
And when did you do that?
That was 2.5 years ago, and I graduated in December 2021.
And have you been at Precise the whole time since then?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what is it that you do? I know you told us that you're a nurse practitioner there, but what is it that you actually do, like with patients at Precise?
Okay, we evaluate them and assess them, and we diagnose and then do medication management.
When you're evaluating them, is it important that they provide you accurate information?
Oh yes, very.
And why is that?
Because we base our diagnosis on that.
Did you have the opportunity to have a patient by the name of Gregg?
Yes.
Do you see her in the courtroom?
I do.
Is she at the defense table?
Yes.
Olivia, I want to talk to you. Do y'all keep medical records of your treatment that you provide to patients?
Yes.
And did you do that with Ms. Gregg as well?
Mm-hmm.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
She says, may I approach the witness, Your Honor, in like 3 syllables. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? It's so
Take
cool.
that off if you need to.
Thank you.
I've given you what's been marked previously as State's Exhibit number 19. If you could take a minute and look at that and see if you recognize those documents.
Mm-hmm. Yes, these are my notes from her visits.
And again, why is it important that we have medical records?
Well, we can't remember everything that we've done, and just to basically keep a treatment plan of what we've seen, what we think is going on, and what we need to address, and then the plan that we come up with the patient and or parents.
Do you recall the first time that you met Gregg?
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
That was January 15th,
Okay.
2024.
And prior to actually having an appointment with you and you being in the room with her, did she also fill out any paperwork or have any testing done?
They are required to fill out intake paperwork that have a few screenings and just demographic information.
Did you have Ms. Gregg do any additional screenings or questionnaires?
No.
And who has them fill out if you'll turn to base stamps number, it's 757, Olivia, in that.
Okay.
I'm looking at something called the cardiac screening questionnaire.
Okay. Got it.
Kind of talk us through what that is and who has the patient fill out that form.
These are all sent to every patient. It's just like a whole intake packet, basically. If they're a minor, usually the parent does it. And this cardiac screening is mostly for patients that we're going to have on a stimulant or something that could affect their cardiac function.
And in your treatment with Ms. Gregg, you didn't really need much from the cardiac questionnaire. I want to take you to, looks like there is 2 pages after that. There's an adult ADHD self-report scale checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Is that similar in nature in that the patient fills that out before they ever meet with you? Is that something that you review?
Yes.
I want to talk about just a couple of things on that page. Olivia, down in question 6, it says, how often do you feel overly active and compelled to do things like you're driven by a motor?
Mm-hmm.
And the response was very often.
Right.
Did you review that when you were making rendering treatment to Carly?
Yes.
What about number 9 when she said she had difficulty concentrating on what people say sometimes? And she said often.
Mm-hmm. I see that.
Okay. And then if you'll turn back to the next page for me, 760, how often do you have difficulty unwinding or relaxing when you have time by yourself? And what did she say?
Rarely.
And what does that mean to you?
That this is just normal adolescent behavior. We have ups and downs at that age, and typically you can have a range of energy and or sleep disturbances throughout that age group, throughout life. So that just means that she has no trouble unwinding and relaxing, just what it says.
And then when you take the page before that, when she talks about being overly active and sometimes having concentration problems, did you take that to be the same thing, just a regular teenager that has ups and downs?
Once I asked her more about possible ADHD, that was ruled out. So yes.
Okay. And so this is not your entire treatment of Ms. Gregg, right?
Absolutely not.
I'm going to ask you to keep looking. There's something called, Olivia, the modified mini screen.
Got it.
On the following pages, it's 761, 762, and 763. What is, if you can tell us, those of us that are not in the medical field, what the modified mini screen is?
This is one of the intake screenings that we do just to kind of identify, really to let the patient look at possible symptoms they could be having and then just answer yes or no to those so that we're made aware of them. I usually overlook these before the patient comes in and just to kind of have an idea of what to ask about that I need to, focus on beforehand.
And if the patient responds yes or no, you would then ask some kind of follow-up questions.
Definitely.
When you're meeting with them.
Mm-hmm.
And did you do that specifically with Carly Gregg?
Yes.
I want to point you to the very last page of that document. Question number 21. If you could read that for the ladies and gentlemen, what the question is and what Ms. Gregg's response was to that.
Have you ever heard things other people couldn't hear, such as voices? And she said no.
And what date was that was put in your system?
January 15th,
2024.
Mm-hmm.
So, Olivia, you told us a little bit about and I think that most of us have been to the doctor's office, right? We have to fill out these forms, different places, different forms. You said you look over those forms,
mm-hmm.
and then tell us about what you do kind of when you meet a patient for the very first time.
Okay. Usually I ask about kind of what brought them here, what their chief complaint is, so to say. And then I do a whole mental evaluation, and that includes sleeping and eating habits. For her age group, I would ask about social stressors, friend groups, if she has a good support system, a number of things, just to kind of narrow down what's going on.
And I want to talk specifically about Carly Gregg.
Mm-hmm.
When she came in, what were you told was the reason for her visit with you?
Depression and anxiety, and she had some social stressors.
And what did she describe those social stressors to be?
We talked about her childhood and kind of having not a great relationship with her dad, and an altercation with her mom recently. I'm going to refer to my notes.
Yeah, if you would, take a look at that and then tell us once you've had a chance to review that. And that's the note from January the 15th of 2024?
Yes. She said that she had started feeling depressed since 6th grade, and then the social stressors were her parents and their custody battle.
Did she also mention that she had a little sister that had died some years back?
Yes.
They're doing a little leading here, but
the defense is not objecting. About midway down, it says she's in the 10th grade at Northwest Rankin, and she loves school and is the valedictorian.
Yes.
How did you get that information?
I was mostly asking about school in regards to ADHD and ruling that out. And so I asked her how school was, and she said she loved it. She's a great student, and she's a smart girl.
Did she tell you that she was the valedictorian?
Yes.
Would it surprise you to learn she wasn't?
No.
Okay. Let's see. She talked about in your notes, it says, talking about that she was in therapy previously.
Right.
What did you learn about the reason that she was in therapy when she was younger?
If I understood correctly, or remember correctly, it was based on the divorce court or custody court ordering her to go to equine therapy.
And who was that divorce? If you don't know, that's okay.
I think it was a custody battle between her dad and her mom.
Her biological dad.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up for us. And at some point, down at the end of the note there in your history, it says her mom says that she's been lying and talking to a guy on Snapchat on a burner phone, and she's hiding it from her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom made her cut him off after they found out she was cutting her thighs and taking sleeping pills.
Right.
Is that something that you remember discussing with Carly and Ashley Smiley that day?
Yes.
And at any point, did Carly say, no, I wasn't taking sleeping pills?
Not that I recall.
And at some point after your evaluation with her and you're in there on that first day, was there discussions about maybe giving her some medicine to try to help with her issues?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
First, we talked about counseling, and that was definitely recommended. And then we kind of pointed out the priorities and what was getting in the way of her life the most and making things most difficult and what was a priority to address. And then we talked about medication options and what to start.
And what did you end up starting her on?
Zoloft.
And do you remember what the milligrams was?
25 milligrams daily.
And tell ladies and gentlemen just a little bit about, is that a lot of medicine? Is that a little bit of medicine?
Was a lot?
No, that is that's a starting dose, and I'm usually conservative with my approaches, so that was just a normal starting dose for her age.
And is that one of the lowest dosages that you can actually prescribe?
Yes.
I want to walk you through, Olivia, I'm looking at page 744, so I want to make sure we're looking at the same thing, under behavioral health history.
It's the other drug that has to be given in much smaller dosages.
744 down at the bottom right. I'm still in your January 15, 2024.
Okay, one sec. Got it.
Down there it says, Carly had grown tired of counseling and wanted to stop. Do you remember them talking to you about that?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more?
After the equine therapy, she had tried other counselors that she wasn't necessarily happy with and stopped at some point.
And it actually even says down there, subsequent providers appeared far less impactful as Carly grew disillusioned with the courts.
Right.
Were those your words or something that they told you?
This portion was filled out by Ashley.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. I want to take you to the next page where you talk about mental status, exam, and risk assessment. And if you could tell us what that is and what you're looking for.
We're really just observing for any kind of abnormal behavior or Things that stand out like memory, attention span, they articulate well, they're cooperative, and then mood, affect, if their judgment is sound, and if they have any presence of psychosis, hallucinations, delusions.
So I want to walk you through a couple of those for Carly on January the 15th.
Okay.
What did you report her psychomotor behavior to be?
Well coordinated, which is normal.
What about her speech?
Normal rate and volume.
She wasn't talking really fast or really loud. What about when you go to her about her cognitive abilities on that day? Can you describe for ladies and gentlemen what you said about her attention span and concentration?
They were all within normal limits.
Her orientation to time, place, and person.
She was oriented to all.
And so what does that mean?
That she's aware of where she is, who she is, and the date and time and situation.
What did Carly report regarding her recent memory, her ability to recall things?
That it was within normal limits.
And what about remote memory? So things that were not happening right at that moment, but kind of in the past.
Same.
Down a little further, you talked about her emotional state. Can you tell us what her mood and affect were?
They were during the appointment. It was normal and alert and oriented and appropriate.
Her judgment and insight that day, is that something you also took into consideration?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you determine to be Carly's judgment and insight?
Within normal limits.
I want to take you, Olivia, to there's a section in that assessment about thought processes.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us about what you observed and what your records indicate about whether or not Carly was having abnormal or psychotic thoughts on January the 15th, 2024?
She denied those.
And did she ever tell you that she was having those types of thoughts before January the 15th of 2024?
No, she denied hallucinations or delusions.
And what was your diagnosis of Carly from your encounter with her in January 15th of 2024?
Adjustment disorder with mixed anxiety and depressed mood, and then major depressive disorder, single episode, moderate severity.
So for those of us that are not in the medical field,
Mm-hmm.
will you break that down for us and just tell us kind of what that means?
Sure. An adjustment disorder is basically just based on a stressful situation that might have happened that is their reaction to that. So it's pretty common, especially in her age group. So, and then I specify, there's a specifier that you can add that says with mixed anxiety or depressed mood. So I added that. And then major depressive disorder. And then you can specify single episode or if it's been recurrent, and then the severity, if it's moderate or severe or minimal.
And you put single episode. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
Just that it wasn't chronic that I was aware of at that time.
Okay. And so, and again, you're just able to render your opinions based off the information provided.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Does that appear to be, I'm sorry, there's actually another page to that. I want to talk to you about that before we move on.
Okay.
It talks about your clinical assessment and treatment plan, and we've already talked about what medication you put her on.
Right.
Tell us, there's another paragraph on that page that says SSRI /SNRI /TCA, and then it talks about patient warned of possible side effects. Can you tell us what that means?
This is just a warning for those drug classes that of possible side effects that could happen that I go over with all my patients.
And did you go over those side effects with Carly Gregg?
Yes.
And one of those side effects is self-harm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you tell them, if you're having thoughts of suicide, what do you need to do?
Go to the emergency room, call us, and stop the medication, or go to the emergency room if you are afraid that you're going to harm yourself or others.
And at any point between January and the next time you saw Carly, did she tell you that she was having any trouble with her medication?
No.
I want to talk about the next time that you had the opportunity to provide treatment to Carly. Was that on February the 14th of 2024?
Correct.
And the notes I'm looking at say that was a telemed.
Right.
And it was mom was present.
Uh-huh.
So tell ladies and gentlemen, what does that mean, telemed?
They just have the option to do in person or a Zoom call for their appointment.
And What did Carly tell you? There's sort of a history provided by the patient. What did she tell you about the medication she was on at that point?
That it had not really had an impact on her at that time.
And so kind of what was your discussion about? We're on 25 milligrams. And then what did you talk to them about?
How it's affected them and if they've had any bad side effects. And if they have not, then, and it has not done anything like for her at that point, then we usually go up on it.
And I want to talk about those side effects because your medical records specifically say the patient denied SI, HI, and AVH. So if you could walk us through, what does it mean when it says patient denied SI?
Suicidal ideations.
And when she denied HI, what is that?
Homicidal ideation.
And what about when she denied AVH?
Auditory visual hallucinations.
So she's denying seeing things that other people don't see and hearing things that other people don't see.
Right.
Did she also deny any other side effects from the medication?
Right.
You did a mental assessment and risk assessment on Miss Gregg again on that day. Can you walk us through that day? Was she oriented to time, place, and person?
Yes.
And did she report having any trouble with recent memory or remote memory?
No, not that I saw.
Down under thought processes, did she report having any abnormal or psychotic thoughts?
No.
And again, on page 3, in the records, it talks again about these SSRIs. And I think I failed to ask you, Olivia, is Zoloft an SSRI medication? What does SSRI mean?
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, and that's the drug class for Zoloft. And that just means that it increases the available serotonin in the synaptic.
And what is serotonin?
It is a neurotransmitter that most people call the happy neurotransmitter, and it affects mood and sleep.
So when you put somebody on an SSRI, the goal is to try to make them a little bit happier.
Right.
Hence the antidepressant medication is going to help depression.
Yes.
And it says that, again, the patient was warned of any side effects.
For her first time.
Do you recall if you specifically went back over that with them?
I don't recall.
Okay. Was that the you had a telemed conversation with them? Carly discussed that she didn't feel the medicine was really doing anything to her, so you decided to up it to 50 milligrams. Was there an opportunity that you had to see Carly after that?
Yes, one more time.
One more time. Okay. And was that in person or was that telemed?
That was telemed as well.
And the records that I have been provided show that you saw her on March the 12th of 2024.
That's right.
Could you tell us about what was relayed to you by Carly on the 12th?
She said that
this was the week before
the medication was making her feel like a zombie.
And what was your discussion with them once she stated that she kind of felt zombie-like?
I never want that for any adolescent. So we definitely were not going to increase it, and we just decided to go ahead and switch it to a different medication so that she didn't have that flatness and take away her personality.
When you talk about switching the medications, did you tell her to stop taking the Zoloft? Tell us about what your recommendation was.
I recommend tapering off so that you don't have any kind of discontinuation syndrome, which is a possibility, or rebound symptoms. So I told her to take 25 milligrams of Zoloft for 10 days and then stop it, and then start the Lexapro for 5 milligrams at the same time.
I want to back up again. I'm not in the medical field, so I want to make sure that tapering off means the same thing, I think.
Okay.
So she's on the 50 milligrams.
Right.
And then you want to put her on 5 milligrams of Lexapro.
Simultaneously as going down on the Zoloft.
So the Zoloft, you're saying that come down a little bit of this while we're taking this so that you don't just get off all the medicine.
Right. Weaning off.
And you said something about to rebound effects, to prevent rebound effects. What does that mean?
If you have a discontinuation syndrome, if you stop your medication abruptly, there's always a risk for symptoms to come back, maybe worse, and then other things that just are uncomfortable whenever you're withdrawing.
And you don't know when you prescribe people medication whether they're adhering to your recommendations or not.
No.
At any point during that evaluation with Ms. Gregg, did she report that she was hearing voices?
No.
In fact, I think the very last line you said, again, she denies SI, suicidal ideations, that she denied homicidal ideations. Is that right?
Right.
And that she denied AVH,
auditory visual hallucinations.
And you also did a mental status exam and risk assessment of Ms. Gregg from that day.
Right.
And I'm looking at your records, Bates Stamps number 754. Could you tell us what your findings were with regards to whether or not Carly Gregg was oriented to time, place, and person?
She was still oriented within normal limits.
So again, she knew where she was, she knew who she was, she knew the time.
Correct.
Her recent memory, what did you determine?
It was normal. Intact.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm sorry. It's intact.
At any point in your providing treatment to Carly Gregg, did she tell you, I'm having memory problems?
Not that I recall, no.
Did she ever tell you about any blackouts, any lapses in time?
No.
You go down and you talk about her judgment on that day. Could you tell us what your findings were with regard to that?
Within normal limits.
And her thought process rate?
Normal rate and rhythm.
So if you would, I don't think I'd asked you about that, Olivia, before now. So she had said on her questionnaire there were like some racing thoughts sometimes.
Right.
But when you observed her, what does her thought process rate was normal and in rhythm mean?
Racing thoughts?
That it was not racing.
And that was the same on all 3 times that you had come in contact with her?
Right.
And then she also, you had questions and reported in your records that there have been no thoughts of abnormal or psychotic thoughts. Is that correct?
Right.
So to be clear, at no point in the 3 times that you treated Carly Gregg did she report hearing voices.
Right.
At no point did she report that she was having lapses in memory.
Correct.
Did she ever use the word derealized?
No.
She never described herself as feeling derealized?
No.
Did she ever use the word disassociation?
No.
Are those words that people typically use when you're treating them as patients?
Not typically, no.
Those are more like clinical terms?
Right.
Court's indulgence. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
How many times did you see Carly from January to March of 2024?
3.
3. And how many of those times were in person?
Once.
And how many of those 3 times was Ashley Smiley also present?
All 3.
All 3. And was she in, like when you were seeing Carly in person, was she in the room with you guys?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. And what, if any, conversations did you have with Miss Smiley during the course of your treatment with Carly?
For any minors, we have to get consent for treatment and medication. So we talked about the whole treatment plan and what they were okay with and came up with a plan together.
Okay. Is it fair to say that you don't have the same confidentiality between a medical provider and a patient if that patient's a minor and their parents is in the room?
We can, by law, we have to report anything. We cannot tell anything that they tell us except for if they are a danger to themselves or others.
But if the parent's in the room with them?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so there's really no confidentiality between you and Carly if someone else is in the room with you?
I'm not sure I understand.
If a parent is in the room with you, Carly doesn't have confidentiality between you and Carly, right? Because somebody else.
She could have told me anything. We could have spoken alone. I gave them the option of that too.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And if Carly would have reported to you between January and March that she was having auditory hallucinations, Would that have been something you felt like you needed to report to a parent?
No.
You wouldn't have needed to tell her mom that she was
Not legally, no.
Okay. But just based on your own personal treatment, would you felt like you needed to?
Personally, yes, probably.
Okay.
Personally, yes. Legally, no. That's interesting.
If you
missed a couple of occasions,
if you knew that Carly had reported to her best friend in her personal journal that she was hearing voices, would that have changed your diagnosis of Carly?
I can only go off of what I assessed at the time.
Okay. If Carly would have told you that she was hearing voices and having these auditory hallucinations,
she's not an expert
would that
witness.
have changed your treatment of Carly?
Yeah.
Would it have? How so?
I would have to rule out. Well, we would have potentially started her on a different medication.
And different how?
An antipsychotic is what we use to treat that.
Okay. And why would you use an antipsychotic in that situation?
Because that is what hearing voices is. It's psychosis.
Okay. And is it fair to say you can be a great medical provider, great at your job, and doing your very best job, but still miss things sometimes?
Sure.
This is a very credible witness.
And is it fair to say that if a person is experiencing memory loss, they might not always be aware of it?
Possibly.
Is it fair to say that if a person has lost time, they might not always be aware of it?
Sure.
Okay. If we can look at, do you still have your report in front of you?
I do.
Can you look at page, at the bottom, I think it's 742 in red. And can you look at symptoms? And the visit date there is January 15th, 2024.
Right.
And was that the first time you saw Carly and her mom? And what symptoms were reported at that time?
Depression, anxiety, cutting, insomnia, overthinking, hopeless, racing thoughts, and stress.
And if you will turn to page 745.
745. That's a lot of pages.
Okay. And again, this is the same visit date, January 15th, 2024.
Yeah.
Can you read what's written there under family behavioral history for father?
It says father, manic bipolar, ADHD, drug, alcohol, and prescription abuse. And this was filled out by Ashley.
Okay. And is bipolar disorder, based on your knowledge and experience, is bipolar disorder often hereditary?
It can be.
And can you tell me what's the difference between someone feeling sad and a major depressive disorder?
Yeah. We all have changes in mood. Sadness is considered normal, and a depressive episode or major depression is something that interferes with their daily life.
Okay, so it's affecting how you function.
Right.
Okay. And if you could, will you turn to page 748 with me?
She's sliding these okays in.
And if you look at the last paragraph on that page, the first sentence, and this is, I guess, when you're going over her prescription medication. And again, this is still from January 15th, 2024. Can you tell me what's written there on the sentence that reads, this can lead to?
This can lead to increased thoughts of self-harm. Many psychiatric medications have been shown to possibly worsen the symptoms or cause increased thoughts of self-harm. Please stop the medication and notify the clinic if this occurs, and seek help in the emergency department if you do not feel safe.
Okay. So it's commonly known in the medical community that sometimes if you put somebody on an SSRI, it can worsen the symptoms they're already experiencing.
The black box warning is for self-harm and suicidal thoughts. So that is a possibility.
What is a black box warning?
Something for the whole class that's considered serious.
Okay, so it's like a warning. Okay.
What is the warning?
And
So it's like a warning.
One more question for you.
That was funny.
If you can turn to page 753. And this was your March 12th, 2024 visit. And can you read the second sentence on that page? And this was after the telehealth visit with Carly and her mom. It starts with, she said she doesn't like the Zoloft.
Right. That it makes her feel like a zombie. So we will wean off of it and switch to Lexapro.
And then will you read what patient's mom?
The patient's mom declined Prozac as she herself took it years ago and it gave her suicidal thoughts.
Okay. And is that what Miss Miley reported to you that day?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I beg the court's indulgence, Your Honor.
Everybody has cans of soda today. There must be like a vending machine up by the bench.
Is it fair to say sometimes patients don't tell you everything you need to know?
Right.
Yeah. Does that happen more so, like not just with children, but with all patients?
Well, if they're not telling me, I don't know.
Yeah. But it's fair to say that happens.
Yeah.
No, tender the witness.
Redirect examination.
Soda day in court. Thursdays bring your own soda, apparently.
Olivia, I think on when Ms. Todd was questioning, you said something about that you gave Carly the option to meet with you alone. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Usually I ask right when I go get the patient out of the waiting room, do you want mom to come or do you want to meet first alone? And I don't recall whether she wanted to be alone. If she wanted to be alone, I would have seen her alone, of course.
And that didn't happen in this case?
No.
Ms. Todd asked you about if a person was having memory problems, they might not report it. They might not know to report it.
Right.
Did Ashley ever report to you that Carly was having memory problems?
No.
Did Ashley ever report to you that Carly was having disassociation?
No.
Did she ever report to you that Carly had said that she feels derealized?
Objection. It's already been asked and answered. It's been properly read.
Overruled.
Did Ashley report to you that she had ever had homicidal thoughts while she was on Prozac?
No.
And I
she wasn't on Prozac.
Ashley.
Oh, no.
The medication, and Ms. Todd thankfully had you read that whole thing. It talks about self-harm. It never says that it can cause homicidal thoughts, right?
No.
And in fact, none were ever reported to you in this case.
Correct.
Ms. Todd asked you about the medical history on page 745 regarding Carly's dad.
Right.
And I think it was your testimony that Ashley had filled that information in.
Right.
You did not diagnose Carly's father
No.
with having bipolar.
No.
They do mention, though, that he has a drug, alcohol, and prescription abuse problem, right?
Correct.
In your experience in training, Olivia, can people that are on drugs sometimes appear to have bipolar symptoms?
Sure.
And sometimes doctors, even though they're really good at their job, they might miss something and misdiagnose someone with bipolar.
Correct.
And you have no way of knowing if Mr. Gregg's diagnosis was actually bipolar, do you?
No.
And it very well could have been that it was his drug problem.
Sure.
And so drug problems are also hereditary, aren't they?
Yeah.
Drug addiction. I want to take you to page 753. Ms. Todd asked you some questions about that note, and that was your treatment record from, February the 14th, I think. Hold on, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. That's March the 12th of 2024.
Okay.
That very last line, what did you report regarding Carly's sleep habits?
She reported good sleep.
So March the 12th, 2024, she's telling you that she's sleeping well at night.
Right.
And again, just to be clear, you can only treat with what you're provided with, the information you're provided with.
Correct.
And you were never told that Carly had any memory lapses.
No.
Any auditory voices.
Right. No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
May this witness be finally excused by the state?
Yes, sir.
By the defense?
Yes.
You're free to go. Please leave the exhibit.
All right.
State may call its next witness.
First witness
They
down.
called Rebecca Kirk.
Rebecca Gert. I'm not sure if that was the right name. No, it was Rebecca something. I think we should only have four witnesses total today before we end. So already on number 2. Ocean Gate hearings. I did hear that the state has filed a $100 million lawsuit against the ship that hit the Key Bridge. Heard that this morning. Haven't heard anything else.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Is that the same
thing?
Please, have safe. Adjust yourself up to the microphone. It's not necessary that you speak directly into the microphone. I need you to speak loud enough that lady up there in the corner can hear you. Okay? Do you understand that you're now under oath and your answers are sworn answer subject to penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may proceed.
If you would introduce yourself.
My name is Rebecca Kirk. I'm a licensed professional counselor.
And Rebecca, where do you work as a licensed professional counselor?
I'm an owner of a small practice called Magnolia Counseling in Madison, Mississippi.
If you could tell us just a little bit about your educational history.
I received my undergraduate degree in English education from Mississippi College, and I taught
some pictures.
Some prior and most of it simultaneously while I've been a licensed professional counselor. And then I received I taught accelerated English mostly, so gifted students chiefly. In the 9th grade at Madison, Rosa Scott for 14 years. And 2 years in Virginia. And then I also received my master's degree in marriage and family therapy and individual counseling from RTS Jackson, which stands for Reformed Theological Seminary. And that consists of a very robust master's degree program where we do 400 face-to-face contact hours in clinic. And then 600 indirect supervision hours, and then postgraduate degree, we work and do 3,000 more hours with the public under a licensed supervisor before sitting to take the mental health equivalent evaluation that the state requires for licensure. I also have to do 24 hours of continuing education classes every 2 years to maintain that certification and licensure.
And so is it safe to say that you are in fact licensed?
I am.
And you were back in March of this year too?
Yes, ma'am.
Rebecca, it sounded like you have a lot of experience working with teenagers too.
I do.
Did you have the opportunity to have a patient or a client by the name of Carly Gregg?
Yes.
Do you see Miss Gregg in the courtroom?
Yes.
Same Miss Gregg that you provided services to?
I do.
Do you keep medical records with regards to the sessions that you have with your patients?
I do.
May I approach the witness? Rebecca, I've handed you what's previously been marked as State's Exhibit S21. Actually, I think that might be Defense Exhibit D21, excuse me. If you'll take a look at those for us.
Okay.
Do you recognize that document?
I do.
And what is that?
These are my entire treatment notes and summary of counseling Carly Madison Gregg.
And in some of those notes, Rebecca, when we got them, there was some writing, like some handwritten stuff in that.
That's right.
Who did that?
Okay, so that the original intake form that she's referring to is completed by Ashley Smiley, or was completed by Ashley Smiley, and the last page concludes with questionnaires, checking off like just main mental problems that a person might be experiencing. It also asks to list the goals for therapy. And the first session that I have with someone, I go over the fact that since she's a minor, I need to speak with just that first session, one of the parental guardians, unless there is a need to contact them otherwise. I make that very clear to any minor and any adult that I see, that confidentiality, and I do kind of want to say this, it's very important to mental health professionals to maintain confidentiality and to not really betray that trust. It's very important. And I am doing that somewhat today from some people's perspective, but I'm not according to the Mississippi state law because of when you declare reasons of insanity. I do have permission to discuss. She has given me permission to discuss her medical history. So confidentiality is important to me. And I make that extremely clear. I just did that, and sorry for that. I worked with teenagers for many years, and so any mental health professional does say and has a duty to say that it is confidential under with the exclusion of just a few circumstances, which would be if someone reports that they're going to harm themselves, if they know of a threat of harm to themselves or another, or if there's any physical abuse. And so I did meet with Ashley Smiley to answer your question for a portion of the first session. And so it's kind of confusing, that last page. I want to explain it. She completed it. She said that there were 3 goals. There are also questionnaires, that are customary. Is it helpful for me to describe what's on this last page or no?
Sure. You'll just tell us. Let me take a step back.
Sure.
If you would, what was the date that this paperwork was filled out?
This was her very first session with me, which I think was January 22nd. Does that sound right? 2024.
Your records reflect the first time you met with her was January.
Yes, that's right. I see it here. Mm-hmm.
So, and I apologize, I interrupted you a little bit. Yes, if you'll just tell us sort of what this handwritten note reflects and kind of talk us through that first visit with Ashley and Carly.
Okay. So the first note that I have was completed, or the first set of goals on that last page of the intake form says, by Ashley, she wants to feel better about herself. And secondly, another goal would be self-care management, internal thoughts. So then I followed up, and she also wrote, Carly has been complaining of sleeping trouble and thoughts of depression, hopelessness. We discovered issues of cutting and taking old sleeping pills. Those issues have been removed and controlled, but also signify the possible level of depressive thoughts. So then I would continue to just question Ashley Smiley and, wrote down on the same sheet some of the answers she gave me. And then I met with Carly the same session and added to some of that information on the same page that Carly, based on talking to Carly.
I want to talk to you kind of down at the bottom of that page, Rebecca. There's some things. It's kind of almost like a checklist. This is actually says checklist of current functioning. And then somebody has marked easily angered. Do you know, is that something that you would have done or that either Ashley or Carly did?
Either Ashley or Carly. And I would assume it would have been Ashley. But then I confirmed and went over it verbally with Carly as well.
So they both reported that she was easily angered.
Yes.
It does say that she has intrusive or disturbing thoughts. Did y'all talk about what that meant?
Yes. Just basically, I asked her, one of the biggest things that you do is you ask why now, because a lot of times people do war with common stressors and then more severe ones. And I wanted to know exactly why they were coming. And Ashley had said that Carly had been cutting herself, or she had found an old iPod. And in that old iPod, she found out that Carly had been cutting herself for some time. And she also described some dark thoughts. And so I tried to kind of get to the bottom of what that was, thinking that they were, representative there by that check mark of has intrusive disrupting thoughts.
And at some point they talk about, you have notes, and it looks like they mentioned that Carly has trouble going to sleep at night.
That's right. And that seemed to be a big deal to her, the sleep issue.
When you're treating a client, how important is it that you're getting accurate information from them?
Extremely. Again, that trust is so important. And so if you're not receiving the correct information, you can't see the whole picture. So you can't really treat the person in the appropriate ways, tailored for them.
We talked about that you had a meeting with Ashley and that you met with Carly. Who knows Carly better than herself?
Yeah.
No one, right?
Right.
So I want to ask you, Rebecca, on this first meeting, did Carly ever report to you any use of illegal drugs?
No.
Did she ever report to you that she was hearing voices of any sort?
No.
Did she ever report that she was having any sort of hallucinations?
No.
What about, did she ever report to you that she was having memory trouble?
No.
What about feeling derealized?
No.
Did she or Ashley ever bring up the word disassociation?
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, I want to talk about the first day, but was there ever a time in your treatment of Carly that she reported that she was having any sort of blackout? Like there were times where she didn't remember what she'd done?
No.
So on the first visit, you kind of go through the current functioning and the checklist with Ashley and Carly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you actually provided some chart notes from that same meeting.
That's right.
If you could, I think you talked about this, that mom reported there was a burner phone.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll look down on page 2 of your records, it says mom was upset, she lied, and when she asked about the relationship. Is that something that Ashley conveyed to you, that she was upset Carly was lying to her?
Yes.
And then when you go down a little bit, there's a little bit of handwriting, and I think it says her bio dad.
Correct.
Who wrote that in the records?
I did. It was a grammatical edit for clarification.
And to be clear, there's some other times in the records that when you produce these, you went in and kind of wrote things.
Because I want to be fully present, but I also want to take, records of what's going on for my need later to help her.
See, it says that she was 4 when her parents separated due to, and you put his and then her bio dad's pill, alcohol, and pot addiction. It goes on to say he was getting high in front of her. Do you remember who told you that?
Yes, both of them did. Ashley actually kind of broke down teary-eyed in the session, which I inferred was what we all feel as parents, which we, feel, am I the best parent? She felt a little bit, I read and then told her this is not your fault, because she had discovered that he had been doing that for quite some time before Carly told her. It may have been like 1.5 years, and I didn't get the impression the visits were often, but I mean, that's irrelevant. When she went, said that he would be high constantly in front of her with drugs all around. And then when she did tell her mom, she stopped, and then they were in actually court, discussion with trying to terminate his rights, I guess, permanently. And that was actually going on while she was seeing me.
And so she's got these other things that Ashley's told you about, the sleep trouble and the things, but you also learned in meeting with them that there's a custody battle going on.
Correct.
What about your note also says she was also taking sleeping pills because last month she hadn't been able to sleep and woke up at 2. And then it talks about now she's taking melatonin. So I want to be clear, in your records, it appears that the melatonin is not the sleeping pill.
Correct. In fact, it was my perception at the time that was one of the things Ashley was upset about, is that she was taking sleeping pills.
Did they ever tell you where she'd gotten those?
No, I know nothing more than that. Sorry.
Is there anything else that you recall specifically about that first interaction with Carly that we have not discussed?
The whole impression of working with her overall seemed to me to center on what was making her cut, these dark, nights of the soul, so to speak, when when she reported having like existential thoughts about life and, the meaning and things like that. And so that's kind of what I flagged in my mind as a practitioner to try to develop more trust and a desire to go there to see what was troubling her.
And do you recall, you said you kind of build rapport or trust with these people. Do you remember how many times you actually saw Carly between the first visit and your last visit with her?
Yes, I saw her every week, every work week, once a week, for a total of 9 sessions, which would have been 9 hours, not counting that time with Ashley. So it would have been a little less, that first session.
The next time you saw Carly in your records is from February the 2nd of 2024. Is that right?
Yes.
I want to talk to you. It says persons in attendance patient. So can you describe for us, what that means?
I am trying to see where you are. Can you tell me what page you're on again?
Yeah, sorry. Page 4 of 24.
Okay.
And then about a little more than midway down on the bottom, it says persons in attendance. It says patient.
Patient, right.
What does that mean?
She was the only one there from session 2 to session 9. I spoke and interacted with only her, with the exception of Ashley always brought her to her appointments. I think that's an accurate statement. I think her stepdad did come with Ashley maybe like once or twice. I know like on Valentine's Day, for instance, they were together.
But he didn't ever come into the room?
No, nobody ever. It was just the waiting room. So I would see them in the waiting room and, that was all.
On that same page, Rebecca, it looks like kind of an assessment of what you might do of a patient each time you meet with them.
That's right.
Could you tell us what you observed of her behavior that day?
Yes, it says appearance, normal, grooming and hygiene, attitude, calm and cooperative, behavior, no unusual moments or psychomotor changes, speech, normal rate, tone, volume without pressure, affect, normal range, congruent, thought process, goal-directed and logical, perception, no hallucinations or delusions, orientation ×3. So that's like, where you are, like, the time, you can see where you are, hear where you are, those kinds of things. Memory, concentration, short and long-term intact, insight, judgment, good, mood, stable and angry and sad.
So she reported to you that she was angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to take kind of a couple of those one by one, Rebecca.
Okay.
You talked about behavior, no unusual movements or psychomotor changes. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes. Sometimes people are just very clearly on edge and they can't get to a calm place, and that's evidenced by a lot of movement in their chair or their body that's maybe not related to their emotional feeling of something they're describing necessarily, and then just like rapidity of speech, like very rapid, maybe loud speaking, things like that, maybe looking around a lot.
And you didn't notice any of that?
I did not notice any of that ever.
And it says her thought process was goal-directed and logical. What does that mean?
She was able to carry on a conversation coherently without distraction, and that would have been okay if she was distracted. But she's very gifted and very, good with her words, and we discuss things in a normal manner.
You said perception, no hallucinations or delusions. What does that mean?
She was not reporting seeing or seeing anything that wasn't there, or not being present with reality or anything of that sort.
And what about her memory and concentration? What did you notice from that day in February the 2nd?
Her short and long-term memory seemed fine to me.
I want to talk to you about what your actual note says from that day and that visit. It says she's frustrated that her friends don't take school as seriously as she and loses her patience. Tell us what you meant when you wrote that.
She was gifted, as I think is a clear fact. She really enjoyed school, and I taught her type of student for 14 years. And so she had like an excitement to talk about school, and She also, I thought that probably one of the things she was dealing with that was difficult for her was possibly that sometimes when you're so gifted and different from others in any way, it doesn't have to do with that, you might feel lonely and a little bit more isolated. So I kind of attributed it mentally. I made a mental note that was probably a relation there. But she would just the patience part, she would just describe like being frustrated with peers who were not as quick as she, and that she knew she could be a little rude with them. We also kind of talked about it's difficult when your mom maybe is a teacher too, because you appreciate good teachers and know how hard they work. And
Rebecca, your notes say that she's regretful when she snaps at them and hurts their feelings. So Carly was reporting to you that she's like snapped at some of the kids at school.
Yeah, and I did not get the impression it was in a violent way, but maybe like her temper, she knew that she was losing her patience with them.
And later on about midway, it says she gets angry at others sleeping through such good teaching. That's kind of what you were talking about, that she recognized she had good teachers.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you, Rebecca, about the next time that you saw Carly. I think you told us that you were seeing her pretty much weekly. The next record I have is from February the 9th of 2024.
That's right.
Want to talk to you again about what you observed from Carly and what you put in your notes regarding her behavior.
Okay. You just want to know that
6, of 20.
Okay, the appearance and stuff.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
I think, let me just look at it to make sure I'm not misspeaking. Everything that I read a while ago, and I can read it again if the jury would like that, was normal, except the only change I made was her appearance. I specified her appearance was goth-like, wearing her grandmother's batwing black goth pants and straight hair partly in her face.
But everything else was in normal limits. Her behavior, her speech, her affect,
Her appearance was
her thought
goth-like.
process, the fact she was not having hallucinations or delusions.
Correct.
Her orientation to time, place, and what's the third one? I'm sorry.
Times
3.
Time, place, and your hearing, like just all of your 5 senses, you're aware.
And then memory and concentration, short and long term, were intact.
Yes, correct.
And then you also have some treatment notes from that day.
That's right.
I want to point you down to, it's toward the bottom of the paragraph. Toward the bottom of the paragraph, it says she has started cutting. If you would, can you read that sentence for me?
Yes.
Goth, G-O-T-H, Gothic. It's short for Gothic, which typically
looks like it's fourth up from that.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to, because I have an edit. I have a grammatical edit in there, and I'm trying to make sense of it. 1 second. Sorry for that.
No, that's right. I didn't want to read it myself in case I was reading it in the wrong place.
Emo is the new
Okay,
word.
she has cut, not currently, but in the past, when alone and in her head a lot. It was my understanding that what kind of prompted treatment with the psychiatric nurse practitioner, Olivia Luber, was that she had found that iPod with this information about how she had been cutting and how she had some dark thoughts. And I was trying to follow up, like I was saying a while ago, with like what was going on with you, like in those times.
And I think your note actually says, Rebecca, after some existential crisis moments of her atheism resulting in a lack of consciousness.
Correct.
Can we break that down just a little bit?
Sure.
Those are some big words for me.
Yeah, that's fine. So I never really could get her to open up about that very much. And I want to be clear that atheism, that was something that I was kind of trying to think might be a possibility. She didn't, as I recall, really use that word. But she did mention the word existentialism, and basically, in my opinion and training, I do think that's related to thoughts of what is the meaning of life, what's its purpose, why are we here? It was my and I could talk more on that maybe, but basically she would get in a depressed state and cut. And she described it as an existential crisis. But I couldn't really get her to describe a whole lot about that.
But you tried to ask her about that.
I did, yeah.
I want to take you to the next time you saw Carly, Valentine's Day, February the 14th of 2024. And I apologize, Rebecca, I didn't ask this earlier. At the top of each of these notes, you mentioned like whatever medication she's on.
That's correct. Yes.
Are you and the nurse practitioner, Olivia Luber, are y'all in contact about that? Or is that relayed by the patient?
The psychiatric nurse practitioners or psychiatrists who prescribe psychotropics, they oftentimes refer a patient, and then unless there's a need, like for an alarm, situation, oftentimes we don't collaborate unless needed. So no, I would be reporting what Carly told me about her med changes.
Thank you for that. We talked about this, and I'm going to ask you about each time you saw Carly, what you noticed, who was in attendance on that day. Well, we might get stream on this. You said the only time anyone else was in the room was that first visit.
Correct.
What did you observe about her behavior on February the 14th, 2024?
Okay, and I'm just making sure I am looking at the correct note.
Yeah, I'm on page 8 of 24 of your records.
Everything that we have prior discussed was the same. The only difference was her appearance. This time was just black clothing, not necessarily her grandmother's batwing black pants with the black shirt.
Should I Google this? What are batwing black pants?
I want to take you to the next page, Rebecca. About midway down, she says, your record says, she rated hating herself, including her humor, and says she wouldn't be her friend if she wasn't her because she's dismissive of others' ideas when she knows it's wrong. Was that something that Carly related to you?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Grandma had a pair of these?
She seemed to, again, be struggling with maybe some social stuff that I believed was stemming from her feelings of being different and having such a zest and fervor, and she really does love to learn. And so she would just talk about, it seemed like she was being introspective about, like, what kind of a person am I?
And it seems like a lot of her conversations, at least up to this point, revolved around her at school.
Yes, that's correct.
Was she kind of obsessed with being great at school?
Yeah, she liked school a lot. And she was glad that I could tell that she had been affirmed a lot in her life for being intelligent. And so she was proud of that, but she also just had a genuine love for learning.
I want to take you to your next visit with Carly, February the 21st of 2024, and talk about her appearance. Does it look like that's the same appearance and behaviors, thought process, no hallucinations, no delusions, things like that we talked about?
Correct, and nothing has changed.
Your treatment note, the very first line of that says she's reading The Castle and she likes it and will read Crime and Punishment. So you told us earlier that you were an accelerated English teacher.
Yeah.
What is The Castle? Because I don't know.
I actually do not know that one very well. I just know that they're well known. She also mentioned that she wanted to read The Bell Jar. But I had wanted to read Crime and Punishment for a long time, and I've actually owned a copy for 21 years. So I was really glad that she wanted to read the classic. I knew that was a classic.
Guys, check out these pants while she's talking. Let me just show you.
Punishment? Kind of, what's that story about?
Is this what we're talking about?
Crime and Punishment.
Objection, Your Honor. No, you're right.
Oh, good. They've got an objection, so we can go over these pants. They look like flare style. They've got. I can see the MC Hammer. Maybe this pair right here. Maybe this is it. The Batwing back, or maybe it's more literal. Oh, there's a men's version. Like this one. This one's pretty literal. I mean, look at this. It literally has like bat wings on the back. I don't think this is what they're talking about. But interesting. I didn't know this. Everybody stop. Habit time. Every time. I didn't know they were a thing, but she did definitely have a strong reaction to that. Looking at Grandma immediately in surprise as they're brought up. Still even discussing with her about it. I was today years old when I heard Batwing pants. I thought Batman pants. That's clearly not it. I dream of genie pants. Those would be the harem pants, though. Harem pants are different. You got MC Hammer. You got harem. MC Hammer's like wide all the way down, right? Harem pants are sort of tapered, right? Or I think of them lighter, silky. And then
I asked you if you would tell me a little bit about what Crime and Punishment is about.
I'm not going to tell you my
Crime and
size.
Punishment is about a protagonist, which is the main character. It was written by a Russian author back in maybe 1866, I believe. And it is the entire book, very difficult book, about a psychopath who lives in Russia, and he is poor. He is a student. He is very intelligent, and he comes on hard times, impoverished, and he has this obsession with this obsessive thinking of basically planning to murder a woman.
This is Crime and Punishment.
With a hatchet. And the novel kind of really, that murderous act happens pretty early on in the novel. And then the remaining novel continues to kind of be about his processing of it. And he even published something in the paper about why people kill and things like that. Anyway, and then he eventually is sentenced because of his admittance of his crime. That kind of also was found out as well. But he was declared insane, and he served 8 years in a Russian labor camp. And when he was in the Russian labor camp, he was unrepentant, and he did not think that what he had done was wrong and that the woman deserved it. He did actually kill her sister too with a hatchet to her skull, but that was kind of an accident because she came home too early.
And Rebecca, in your notes, you'd actually underlined the fact that she was reading that book.
Well, that was just for grammar, because you're supposed to underline a title of a book if you can't italicize it.
Okay. Did you and Carly have any other discussions about reading any kind of literature, like kind of dark literature like that?
Not that I can recall, no.
That was a pretty good book report.
And to be clear, in this note, she had not yet read it. She was reading The Castle. This was on 2/21, and she was going to read Crime and Punishment, and she did so later. I think she read it the week of spring break, and I saw her Monday after spring break. That was my last session with her, the Monday first back after spring break.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to take you to the next note, February the 26th of 2024. Again, without belaboring the point, same appearance, behavior, speech, affect.
The only difference is appearance is black t-shirt and jeans.
In your notes on that day, it said something about she may be on the spectrum. Can you tell us what that meant?
Carly came in that session and she was telling me that she had a lot of symptoms of kind of autism, and that's what that means. And so like Asperger's, and she was talking about just sensory issues and things like that. But yeah, that's what that means. Yeah.
And so Carly was telling you that she thought she had autistic symptoms.
Yeah. I mean, she never used the word, but I knew, and most teenagers are very familiar with what that is. And I just assumed that she thought she had that. Yeah.
And based off your treatment, did you think that she actually had autism?
I didn't. She did report too that her mother didn't either.
I want to take you to the next time that you saw Carly, March the 5th of 2024.
Okay.
Again, you saw her in person.
Correct.
And the history given regarding attitude, behavior, speech, affect, thought process, perception, orientation, memory, and concentration, kind of all that's the exact same.
That's correct.
Was she a bit of a hypochondriac?
In your note on that day, you have CBT and attachment therapies were discussed and explored to help alleviate anxiety. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, CBT is shorthand for cognitive behavioral therapy and attachment therapy. So those are there are many, many different forms of therapy that we're trained in, and cognitive behavioral is really good for depression and anxiety. It's about kind of trying to analyze your unpleasant thoughts and basically, for lack of better words, get a grip on them and have a better life experience. Attachment therapies are rooted in this well-known belief and research about the parent-child bond and how we feel attached to people in our lives and how that influences us.
You also put in your records, boundary setting and identity work was explored. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So boundary setting would be just your classic, any kind of boundary you need to set to assert your comfort as a human being while also, not causing harm to another, obviously. But a lot of people have trouble saying no to people or sometimes saying yes to them, depending on the circumstance. So it's just kind of more of a work through of like, what do I want and how can I, in a healthy way, communicate that to others.
And at this point, Rebecca, is it safe to say, you're still in therapy, she's still in therapy with you, and you're trying to work on not cutting anymore, and these thoughts of just anxiety and depression that
That's
I've reported.
correct. Mm-hmm.
There weren't any other known psychiatric things disclosed to you?
No.
I'm going to take you to the next time that you saw Carly, March the 13th of 2024. And again, talk about the in-person visit and the observations that you made regarding her appearance, behavior, speech, and et cetera that we've been through. That's not changed either.
Correct. It's the same.
She does report to you that Olivia Luber's changed her medicine because she reported feeling numb.
Yes.
She didn't laugh as much, nor did she feel as upset when her mom yelled at her.
Mm-hmm.
That she finished her reading. Mm-hmm. Is that what you were talking about, that she told you that she'd finished reading the books?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Specifically that one, yeah.
And she sort of relates like her anger to her mom's stress, I think. And I want to ask you about that. She says when her mom is less stressed, she feels it in less anger. Can you talk to us about what that meant?
Thank you, Shark.
I'm trying to find
Love
where
the fact
that
checking.
is. Okay. Yes, that's kind of a poorly worded sentence. Sorry about that. I was kind of trying to do it while attending to her. But basically, she appeared to me to feel some codependent feelings, or maybe be a little bit codependent on her mother's emotions. And when Ashley felt something, Carly, seemed to be affected by it.
And I think I misspoke, Rebecca. I said when she'd finished her readings, and then at the very end of that, it says she's about to read.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that was the following week that you were talking about.
Yes, this is the week of spring break, and she was going to read it during spring break is what that said.
And then she talked about her mom asked her to promise that she wasn't trying to be a boy. Can you tell us, and then you wrote, I think it was you wrote, due to her new haircut. Can you talk about that?
Yes. I think we only talked about her haircut maybe twice, and she had literally just gotten her haircut before that session. So that day, this would have been a week before my last session with her, I think. She had her med change, she'd gotten her haircut, and I think on a session before that, she had just expressed, I always kind of want to make sure someone's not feeling like identity problems regarding their sexuality or something that needs to be discussed. And she did talk about how her mom, I think, wasn't a fan of it or was a little bit afraid or something. I'm not sure. I really cannot recall, but I feel like the reason why I said this is because we had probably talked about it earlier, as I recall. And so I was trying to follow up. How did she think about your haircut? So she was okay with it. And she was like, yeah, she just said, that promise me you're not trying to be a boy.
And did you, in your 9 sessions with Carly, did you ever think that she was having some sort of identity crisis?
No. And in fact, I followed up that time and the very next time, which was the last time I saw her, because the next time I saw her would have been the first time her peers at school had seen her new haircut. And I wanted to be sensitive to the fact that, are you being bullied at all? Because there were some other negative things that had been said to her and other peers. And she always answered with a positive affect, like, no, it's fine. And I asked her too, like, was that the truth to your mom? You can tell me, it's fine. I'm not going to discuss your stuff. And she's like, no, I told her the truth, or something like that.
So I want to take you to the next report that I have is a treatment date on March the 18th of 2024. Is that the last time that you saw Carly?
That's correct.
And I do want to talk specifically about each of these on March the 18th.
Okay.
So you saw her in person by herself, right?
Correct.
And you reported that she was wearing a black t-shirt and jeans again.
Yes.
What was her behavior like?
Completely normal, the same as it always had been. She had just gone back to school. It was Monday, the first Monday back after spring break. And this was was it a 5 o'clock session? I'm not sure.
Yes, it's 5:50 p.m. to 5:55 p.m.
Okay. And so 5:50 to 5:55, 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
So I met with her for an hour, and basically everything was the same that it had been as far as the way she appeared to me.
And at no time did she report any hallucinations or delusions? At no time did she report any memory or concentration issues?
No.
I want to take you to page 19 of 24. This is regarding your psychotherapy notes, that last visit you had with her. And she talked about kind of walking on eggshells consistently while mom's around. And I think you touched on this a little bit. Carly was maybe a little bit codependent on Ashley's feelings and behaviors. Can you tell us kind of what you meant, what that meant about walking on eggshells?
Yeah, but I think I want to say something a little bit before that, if that's all right.
Yes, please.
I honestly kind of had to lead this session with her and try to dig into some of this stuff that she might be feeling, because I was starting to really kind of wonder if I was really serving her the best I can. And, if I can and someone else can, I want to refer someone. I knew that she was a school teacher. Blue Cross state insurance plans aren't real rewarding on that end. And so I really had kind of contemplated, am I really helping her? Because I felt that the sessions were really mostly about school, but I knew that there had been a big event with why she was coming. And so I really kind of honestly did a little bit of soul searching and decided before this session that I wanted to really try to go there to maybe some painful things that she maybe was being hesitant to speak about. And so I did kind of bring that up. And I think that's important to note. Like, she didn't just start talking about her mom. I was trying to really get to some hardcore stuff with her in this session. And she, we talked about how her mom, when her mom was angry, it was really hard for her to really handle that. And so I'm always trying to get a gauge, obviously, let's rule out abuse. I did not have any indication ever before, during, or after that her mother was abusive, but I can't make that assumption as a clinician. I need to really be sensitive to anything that might not be being reported. And so I wanted to get kind of a measure of what does Ashley look like when she's angry? And she described, and it's in this note, that, she raises her voice sometimes or slams doors, cabinets, speaks in shorter sentences. I think we actually discussed an example that's not noted here of, can you give me an example of her being angry or something at you? And she gave an example of maybe grading some tests of some kids. She was a math teacher. And so They were doing poorly on it, which is not what any teacher wants when she's grading tests that she knows she taught well, which I'm sure Ashley did. And she noticed her mood and she wanted to be helpful, and she kind of maybe had, and I don't think maybe this event had necessarily recently happened. I was asking her to give me one so we could work through conflict resolution and her emotions and stuff. And she said that she had done, like had offered to help her, and then her mother kind of snapped at her in response. And so I try to do a lot of work with like, okay, well, let's just take that example then. What do we do when we're upset? How can we communicate calmly, clearly? I emphasize the importance of cooling off. Your body needs to self-soothe when it gets flooded and your heart rate gets to a certain degree. You can't think properly. And so we talked about things like that.
And your report actually says you talked about understanding anger and how to respond to it.
Correct.
That anger is a secondary emotion, and how to confront her mom when she's cooled off was explored. Is that what you kind of just described to us? I went through ways for Carly to approach anger.
That's right. Underneath anger is really sadness or fear or a blocked goal of some sort. Yeah.
I know that's the last time that you treated Carly, but there's actually another note that was added to your records May the 16th of 2024. Could you tell us about that?
Yes. Whenever termination of care has occurred, it's customary for clinicians to do a summary note. Either, sometimes very, very rarely, it just, no communication ever happens, but oftentimes it's the joint, agreement or the agreement of one versus the other. And this was a very different case. And so I had to write a summary report on it like I would any other.
I want to talk to you a little bit about that, Rebecca.
Okay.
It talks about within 24 hours, something terrible had happened. And you state in your last session with me, she appeared emotionally stable and she had no suicidal or homicidal feelings suspected by me nor spoken by her. So I want to ask you about that. You said that she didn't tell you about any feelings, but you didn't think that there was anything like that going on either.
No, that's correct.
And then you also noted that she did not indicate that her medication change from the prior week was negatively affecting her.
Correct.
What did you mean by that?
Well, anytime that a person's prescription meds change, you need them to be very concerned about side effects, depressive thoughts, feelings of suicide, things of that sort. And so I wanted to follow up and make sure she wasn't experiencing negative reactions regarding that.
You also said that, nor did she appear different from any other sessions, nor emotionally unstable or dysregulated. Can you talk about what that means?
Yes, just kind of basically what we said, that was on the first part of each of my sessions. Like she seemed very oriented to time and space and didn't seem to have erratic speech, loud speech, to be overly angry or overly happy. Just, a normal situation observance of her.
And then you go on to say she did not appear melancholy nor zoned out emotionally. Can you talk about what you meant there?
Yeah, she had reported several times that, at least one time maybe, but I feel like I maybe wrote it more than once, I'm not sure, that with some of the Zoloft, she felt like a zombie. And so, she never really appeared that way to me ever, but she had reported it, so I put it in my notes when that had occurred, but I was saying here that I didn't notice any of it as well.
And you talked about how you had gone through conflict management with Carly on the day before the incident.
Correct.
I think you also talked about kind of what you observed between Carly and Ashley's relationship. Can you talk about why you thought that was important to put in your record?
Yes, sure. Well, ordinarily termination of care is in a very different manner, and I knew that this one was a very sad act that occurred, and I wanted to be clear that I did not ever observe them together other than in the waiting room. And I never really saw, anything that would elude me to believe that, or hint at any kind of very severe danger or threat.
At any point during your treatment and sessions with Carly, did you think that she was being physically abused by anyone?
No, never. In fact, I asked several times about the stepdad, and I'm very confident in her response, verbally and non-verbally, that it felt very much to me like that nobody that she was living with had been abusing her. Now, her biological father, yes.
And she described some incidents where he had been physical with Ashley as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about, I didn't see any note of this, but did she at any point ever report that she had been sexually abused by anyone?
No, she told me she had not.
Court's intelligence.
They keep bringing up this incident that instigated this meeting with a counselor. What was the incident?
Good morning, Ms. Kirk. How are you?
Doing well. How about you?
Just fine. My high school English teacher is about to be very proud. I, too, read Crime and Punishment, and you're right, it was written in 1886 by Dostoevsky. And isn't it true the main protagonist of that novel, Raskolnikov, killed his neighbor? The woman he killed was his neighbor, and he killed her because he hated her?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, could you speak up?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And isn't it true, actually, by the end of that novel, Raskolnikov felt so guilty about his action and was so remorseful that he didn't only confess, but he actually, in an act of remorse, bowed to the earth?
That's not the way I interpreted it, but that is the thing about literature. There's a lot of interpretations.
Yeah. Isn't it true, what the book is actually about? The act of murder happens in the first chapter. Isn't it true that the entire book is about how murder is such a horrible act and the weight and consequences that it carries on a person who does that?
Yes and no. You don't want to get me started. I'll go into my literature mode, but I really don't think the point of the book was about how murder is such a horrible act at all. I think it was about the psychological dilemma of someone mentally insane. And honestly, I think that's what that's about. It definitely is talked about, and there are different characters in there, including one that tries to kind of convert him to Christianity and stuff like that. But even when he's in the Russian labor camp at the end, he says she kind of deserved to die. I remember there being something like that. Don't quote me because it's been a minute.
But again, he hated his neighbor.
Yeah. She was a greedy, she loaned money to people and was very unkind to them, but he didn't know her hardly at all. He just went and borrowed money from her.
And he was poor and she was demanding it back.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
And the main character was poor and she was demanding it back.
It was like a debt type thing. She wasn't, I don't know about the word demanding, but yes, she was greedy. She was definitely greedy.
So he had a motive.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Did Carly hate her mom?
I never got that impression.
What impression did you get from Carly?
I got the impression that she had complex feelings about her mom, because one time we were talking about her, I tried to talk about the custody case a lot. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was literally going on, and they were supposed to meet, and I would ask, how are you feeling about that? And I'm fine. And I got the impression, I'm just going to let the adults work it out. She seemed to have a lot of trust in Ashley to care for her and to protect her, as well as her stepdad in that. And, but there was one time when we were talking about the bio dad and then her mom, and, she said emphatically, I know he doesn't love me, but I had to ask, do you believe that your mother loves you? And she really was a little unsure on that answer.
Yeah. But did Carly love her mom?
Yeah, I believe that she did. I had nothing to tell me otherwise.
Okay. And you said that Carly was a little codependent on her mom's feelings. Do you mean that Carly's emotions were real tied in to how her mom felt?
Correct. Mm-hmm. It was probably mutual. Yes.
Yeah. And the feeling that, the example about, her mom, the example about being angry Carly gave you is actually about an incident in which Carly's mom got angry with Carly when Carly had tried to help her mom.
Yes,
writing
that's
papers.
correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it really hurt Carly's feelings. Her mom snapping at her when Carly was trying to help. It hurt Carly.
That's right.
Didn't make her angry, right?
Well, I can't speak to that. In fact, I would assume it does make one angry from what I know about emotion. Again, anger is a secondary emotion. And it is the more safe thing that we feel when we maybe feel threatened or unsafe. And it would be understandable that her environment growing up, she had to deal with a lot of emotions, that she didn't get to maybe express healthily. So that can make one be a little, anyone, and that's a normal thing.
And is it fair to say that Carly felt like she had to walk on eggshells around her mom because she didn't want to make her mom angry or more stressed out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Carly was always very careful. She didn't want to hurt her mom's feelings, right?
I don't know about her always being very careful, but I do know that, and I think that would be impossible for someone to always, but I do know that she seems sensitive to her mother's feelings, yes.
And Carly didn't want to hurt her mom's feelings.
Right.
Is it fair to say that Carly really wanted to please her mom?
Yeah, I think so for sure.
Carly wanted her mom to feel proud of her?
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair to say that Carly didn't ever want to worry her mom?
I don't know about ever, but I do know that probably chiefly, like, no child wants to worry their parent. Yeah.
Is it fair to say that, Carly knew her mom was pretty stressed out and didn't want to add to that stress?
I really can't speak to like the level of stress she observed in her mother. But again, just making a basic assumption of any normal person, and she never led me to believe that she was different from any other average person. I would have concluded that, but I can't say that because I didn't observe every situation.
Yeah.
I only know what she reported to me when she came to me.
Okay. And is it fair to say that a person can sometimes, if their feelings get hurt and it makes them mad later, that a person can feel mad without expressing that emotion to others?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And did you in fact know that Carly never got a chance to read Crime and Punishment?
No.
I'm sorry.
No, it was my understanding that she did.
Yeah. Well, it was your understanding that she was planning to?
No, I thought that she told me when she came back the Monday after spring break that she had read it, but.
Objection, Your Honor, if there's something in evidence to show otherwise.
Okay. And is it, and the question that, that you had asked Carly about her haircut and her friends teasing her about cutting her hair shorter, and about whether that meant something about her sexuality. Isn't it true that in your notes you reported she actually laughed in answering that question and said no?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So she found that to be, somewhat humorous.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Not a concern.
Well, what had happened, we were walking out actually with the padlock door, and I said, "Oh, what did your friends think about your haircut the first day back?" And she said, "Oh, they said it makes me look even more gay now." And I said, "Is that a true statement?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Oh, well, I'm sorry." And then she replied with, "Oh, it's not a big deal. Like,
yeah, she's
doesn't bother me." Yeah.
Yeah. And on the handwritten initial assessment that Ashley wrote to you, is it true that in that she wrote that Carly had been having intrusive, and she marked the box for intrusive and disruptive thoughts?
Correct.
Okay. Is it true she marked the box that Carly was having thoughts that got stuck?
Yes, that's correct.
Is it true that she reported several different times on this page that Carly had really been experiencing some difficulty sleeping?
Yes.
And in her own handwriting, doesn't Ashley write that Carly was severely unable in the last month to sleep?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And somewhat for the last year?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it also true that she wrote in her own handwriting that at 2 a.m., Carly had a habit of waking up at 2 a.m. and then not being able to go back to sleep?
Correct.
Okay. And isn't it true that Carly also wrote that Ashley had written that Carly seemed to have a poor self-image?
Yes. Wait, where are you referring to? I just want to
the
make
box.
Sure. Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And isn't it also true that Ashley had marked the box that Carly had been experiencing panic attacks? And when asked how often, Ashley wrote Carly had at least been having one panic attack per month.
Yes, with the correction of it didn't say at least, it said one per month. Yeah.
And isn't it true that Ashley had marked the box saying that Carly had been having difficulty completing homework or classwork?
Where's that one at? I'm sorry.
That one is, may I put your honor?
I'm sorry. This is kind of a busy page.
That one is right.
All right, book club. We are going to do crime and punishment. When that's over, I've already selected the next one. It's sort of like in the series. It's War and Peace.
For sure.
War and Peace is right after that. It's light reading. You should be able to get it done pretty quick. It's about 700 pages.
Checked.
Can you tell if it was checked? If you can't tell.
You know what? Let me look at your page because you're right. Mine is a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
You need to refer to the original exhibit, please, as far as to making a determination.
Okay.
If you would, please refer to the original to the exhibit.
I mean, it does seem hard to read because I have written some notes to the left, but that would be surprising to me, but I'm not saying that it may not be checked underneath my handwritten note to the left. I'm really unsure.
It's just hard to read because of the handwriting.
That's right. Yeah.
So it could be, might not be.
Yeah.
And isn't it true that what is easy to read is that Ashley had written just a few short places down that Carly had been sad and withdrawn in her mood?
Yes.
We'll do the art of war after that. So
and
I'm just
at the
choosing
top
a few.
of that page, and I know it's kind of a little bit messy, but at the top of that page, isn't it true that somebody reported that Carly had made a 30 on the SAT?
Correct.
ACT?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that somebody had written in the response to the first question, and what are your goals that you hope to achieve through counseling?
Mm-hmm.
Someone had written, either Ashley or you, she wants to feel better about herself, socially, personally, physically insecure.
Yes.
And had been so since 5th or 6th grade.
That's correct. So she began by writing she wants to feel better about herself, and then I followed up with both of them and added more notes to give more detail to that. That's right.
Isn't it true also on that page, in kind of response to the question number 2, it says father had been emotionally and physically abusive, and also had bipolar and ADHD.
Addict.
Yeah, and drug addict.
That's right.
And that there had been times years ago that she had reported he, meaning the father, had been getting high in front of her the whole time during, I guess, visitation periods.
That's correct.
Okay. And then briefly describe your or your child's current difficulty. Can you read for us what's written there?
Yes, it says, this is written by Ashley. Carly has been complaining of sleeping trouble and thoughts of depression, hopelessness. We discovered issues of cutting and taking old sleeping pills. Those issues have been removed and controlled, but also signify the possible level of depressive thoughts.
Okay. So, did Carly's mom, and on this page, there's a box for, hurts animals. That box isn't checked, is it?
I have all the books
There
you guys
is a
have
box
mentioned.
no, it's not checked.
Okay.
This is already
And it's
has
also a
all of
box
them.
for
You name
hurts
it,
friends or
we've got it.
siblings. That box isn't checked, is it?
Correct.
And during the course of your counseling with Carly, did you ever consider her a psychopath?
Never.
Did you ever consider her a sociopath?
Never.
And again, you met with her how many times?
9 hours, roughly 9 hours, yes.
So 9 different sessions.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
From January to March. Okay. And were you aware that Carly had written in a journal about hearing auditory hallucinations?
Mm-mm. Unless it was the reference to that iPod. I'm not sure if they're considering that a journal or what.
But the reference
I was never told about any kind of hallucinations, just dark thoughts is the way it was described to me in that iPod.
Okay. And did you know that in one of Carly's journal entries, when she was talking about feeling like she was losing control of the auditory hallucinations, that she'd actually written in there that she had considered bringing her journal to you?
No. No, not at all.
Do you think that speaks to the level of trust Carly had in you?
I can't really speak to that. You'd have to ask her.
Were you aware of the fact that Carly has repeatedly told people that you were the first counselor she ever felt like helped her? Were you aware?
No, it's not.
Okay. If Carly would have reported to you during one of your sessions that she was experiencing auditory hallucinations, would that have been something you felt like you needed to report to her mom?
Not necessarily. I would have followed up with a lot of questions to determine if she was a threat to herself or others.
Okay. And if Carly would have reported to you that she felt like she was losing control of herself to the auditory hallucinations, was that something you would have felt like you needed to report to her mom?
Again, not necessarily. I would have asked her to clarify with a lot of questions. What does control mean to you? You know, that means 1,000 things to different people. But if I had asked it enough to determine that she was a threat to herself or others, then yes, I would have reported it.
Okay. And is it fair to say that Carly had some fear in regards to her dad?
Her biological father?
Yes.
That was very perplexing for me, honestly. I just could not get her to open up a lot about what I knew had to have been traumatic instances. I mean, she seemed very indifferent and apathetic towards him. But yeah.
And is it fair to say that Carly saw her father as someone who is not a successful person?
Correct. Yeah, she did not like him.
Yeah.
She was glad she was with her mother.
Yeah. And is it fair to say that if someone is afraid of having a certain mental health diagnosis, that might motivate them to not be fully forthcoming with their therapist about what they're experiencing?
Sure.
And if Carly would have told you that she was smoking marijuana to help her sleep at night, is that something you would have felt the need to tell her mom?
No.
Okay. Would Carly have had any way of knowing without disclosing that to you that you wouldn't have reported that to her mom?
Yes, she would, because I told her that on the first session.
Okay. But Carly had seen you talk with her mom before, correct?
Because she's smart enough to know that legally anyone under the age of 18 has to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And did Carly or Ashley ever tell you about an incident in which Carly had gotten in trouble for taking a knife to school?
Never.
You don't recall that?
No.
Okay. And during the time in which you were with Carly, had either Carly or her mom reported to you that Carly had seemed to develop a hypersensitivity to certain sounds?
In that session note regarding the symptoms, she came telling me, you know, she just gave me a lot. It's probably in that one. She kind of came in talking about a lot of symptoms that typically is customary to like an Asperger's or autistic diagnosis.
Yeah. And that these certain sounds, when she heard them, kind of caused her to feel irritated?
Yes, but again, like it was it was not ever anything, I want to be clear, like a hallucinatory manner. It was all in the context of that person's tapping that pen or tapping their foot or something like that, you know?
Yeah, not furious, but just annoyed, irritated.
Right.
Yeah. And based on your sessions with Carly, when Carly would mention, you know, having periods of time when she would be questioning the meaning of life, did that seem to be during the time periods in which Carly was experiencing depression?
I need you to repeat that, please. I'm unclear what you're asking.
Yeah. When you talked about that Carly would have these existential times and she'd be questioning, you know, the meaning of life and things like that, was that also during periods of time in which Carly was experiencing depression?
Well, that's what was kind of problematic about treating her, is that was really the only thing of real emotional conflict that I ever had her report, and it was because of the iPod stuff. And so I kept trying to kind of dig and find out what was troubling her. So, I mean, during that's what I'm talking about with the existential. She didn't really open up a whole lot. The last session we did talk about kind of reality and life and morality and some things like that. But, but it wasn't because she said she had been upset about it and needed to discuss it. It was based on something, I think, as I recall, her father is a Jehovah's Witness, her bio dad, and she knew I was a Christian because that's something that I like to tell people so it doesn't blindside them if they're different. And she said, "I'm sorry, I know you're a Christian. He's a Jehovah's Witness, and I believe that that's definitely a cult," you know. So we kind of talked a little bit about it that way thematically, but not in a way that was, you know, like I'm troubled and I need to talk about this kind of thing.
Yeah. And during your sessions with Carly, did she ever strike you as a violent child?
No.
And when you learned about the events that had transpired on March 19th, were you shocked?
It's the most shocking day of my life.
Yeah. And that's based on the 9 sessions you had with Carly and the hours you spent with her.
Yes, because I had no clue that nor had she ever reported that she was severely mentally troubled to any degree like that.
Yeah. And you would just, based on your knowledge of Carly and her relationship with her mom, you were shocked to find out what had occurred on March 19th.
Yes.
Thank you. We tender the witness.
Distinguished reader.
Very insightful. She's had more visits with Carly than any of the other ones.
How many people do you see that have complaints about depression or anxiety?
Almost every single one of them.
How many of them have gone on to kill their mom?
0. Oh, sorry, her.
One.
Before that, none.
Do you have any patients that have ever reported hearing voices?
I have sometimes, yes.
And how many of them went on to kill their mom?
None.
You were asked about whether or not Ashley being mad at Carly made Carly angry and hurt her feelings. And I think you talked about anger being a second emotion. Did that make Carly angry? Sorry, you got to answer.
Yes, sorry.
You were asked about Carly wanting to please her mom and not worry her. Someone keeping secrets from their mom about a phone mom didn't know about, a secret boyfriend, the fact that someone's using drugs and cutting themselves. Does that sound like somebody who's so worried about hurting mom's feelings to you?
Can you please repeat that question?
Yeah, sorry, it was a bad one. You were asked about Carly not wanting to anger her mom.
Right.
And keeping secrets from your parent, doing things that are dangerous. Does that sound like somebody who's worried about hurting their parents' feelings?
I mean, honestly, it's I can't really speak to that. I mean, I would think that there could be a lot of motivations regarding that. But
Carly never reported having any mental health issues other than depression or anxiety to you, correct?
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, let's go ahead and speak finally excused by the state.
Yes, sir.
By the defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, you're free to leave. If you would hand that to the bailiff.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
May we
After I
approach?
take care of the jury, give me just a moment.
After I send the
All
jury
right,
out to
ladies
the
and gentlemen, the
bathroom.
jury is about 10:30 and the lawyers want to talk. So that's a good time for y'all to use the restroom, okay? Everyone remain seated while the jury exits. Just knock on the door and let the bailiff know when we're ready, okay?
Jury's in control of this time schedule, which is sort of hard for us to take breaks, but this is interesting. I still am undecided. Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone does have a hearing today. We might catch up on that one. Read Sarah Boone. If we have a break here, just 1 second.
All right, record reflect we're outside the presence of the jury. You had something?
Yes, sir. I was just wondering how many more witnesses,
The prosecutors intend to call.
2.
We haven't exactly made that decision yet. I mean, we know 2 for sure.
Okay. At least 2, they say. All right, we'll be in recess for about 15 minutes.
15 minutes. That's enough time to read Sarah Boone. So we will get the audio set up for that. Just 1 second. There was a hearing. I think it may even be going on right now. Let me do a quick check. I'll use camera 7 to monitor that one. I have the hiccups. Mrs. R.A. has all these books. None of them are mine. You name it. Crime and Punishment, Jane Austen, Mark Twain, Gone with the Wind up here. Just looking at this. The Anatomy of Peace. There's a great one. C.S. Lewis. We've got the Narnia Chronicles. Little Women. I see all those up there. We've got Tom Sawyer, Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Red Badge of Courage. I've got lots of books. This is just one bookshelf, and we have another bookshelf full over there, and then Mrs. R.A. has her favorite books up top. Tale of Two Cities, yep, that's here. Something about 50 Shades? No, I've never heard of that one. Mice and Men, all about Lenny. Lenny and the Bunny. I'm being distracted from Boone again. I'm sorry. I'm trying to search it up. Just 1 second here. Because I've heard there were two documents. I was only finding one. Let's see. Notice of supplementary discovery. That just came in. Hold tight here. Defendant's motion for return of property. Let's bring that one up first. Oh, that's on 3. I need it on 7. I was on the wrong device. Sorry. Phone's going nuts. Okay, here we go. I think we want to read the state's response. Motion to appoint expert. Motion to declare indigent. I can see the state's response to the defendant's motion for return of property, but I'm not finding the initial motion. My phone is going absolutely nuts here. Okay. Let me show you what we have right now. We have this guy right here. This is a notice of supplemental discovery. I've got it in a weird view, but comes now the state of Florida by and through the undersigned assistant state attorney, and hereby makes the following information available to the defense and states as follows. The inmate tablet communication records. Copies listed of items listed will be provided under a separate cover. Previous discovery provided included pages 1 through 423. Please verify receipt of all pages and notify your office of anything missing. So they get inmate tablet communications. That's cool. But what else? Let's look at the state's response to the motion. You guys seeing this? Oops, one more time. There we go. This is the state's response to the motion for return of property. I think this is a phone request. State of Florida says the defendant's assertion that her prior plethora of attorneys had no opportunity to see or review her cell phone is patently false. If they never chose to avail themselves or retain digital forensics expert or have the opportunity to inspect the phone, it was of their own volition. The digital imaging of the phone has been disclosed in discovery. The defendant can choose to attempt to enter portions of the digital imaging, like the state at trial. The state will introduce the physical evidence into evidence at trial. Well, it appears to be axiomatic that the court cannot... Hey, Siri, define axiomatic.
Axiomatic means self-evident or unquestioned.
Oh, now we have a phone call. Hang on one second.
Yes.
Hey, who's this on the phone?
Yes.
This is Scott. I can barely hear you. Greeners. Oh, okay. Greeners, you're quiet. Speak up, man. Speak up, my friend. How are you doing, Greeners?
Great. I just want to let you know, I emailed you the defense's motion that you should be first before the state's response.
Okay. I'll go back and grab it. Thank you very much. I could not find it for some reason.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Bye. Now you guys have put a voice to the elusive Greeners. We should have asked him while he was on the phone what the secret was to winning the internet. He is our internet owner today, first in chat. The state says, well, it appears to be axiomatic that the court cannot order the state to release the evidence it intends to introduce to the trial. It apparently bears repeating. As a matter of course, courts should not order the state to return property lawfully seized pursuant to a valid search warrant where the state is actively conducting a prosecution. They're like, okay, we shouldn't have to say this, but we will. When we seize something with a search warrant, we don't give it back while we're prosecuting you. That's what they're saying. The state has explained to the defendant in open court that she's permitted to have an expert examine the phone at the sheriff's office under the supervision of the state's office and the state's attorney's office to maintain the integrity of the original evidence. She, of course, is permitted to do so. Florida Rule of Criminal Procedure allows that. Therefore, the court should deny the defendant's request to return the evidence. She physically wants her phone. She like, sent me the phone so I've got to delete a couple of videos. The defendant's later wish was already agreed to by the state, and we await coordination with the defendant's latest counsel and any experts she retains. That is funny. She wants her phone back. Let me find what Greener sent me really quickly, and we'll bring that up. Did Greener say email? I think he said email. There it is. Start with this. Here's the one I should read first, now that I've read the other one. Bringing it over. Show and Finder. Pop that one up on camera 3. Oh, can't do 3 yet. There we go. Here's 3. We'll get this read before the break's over. Continuous scroll. All right, here we are. I'm going to turn off the MK counter just briefly. All right, this is the request from Sarah Boone. Motion for return of property, or in the alternative, motion for independent exam by defense. Comes now defendant Sarah Boone by and through counsel James S. Owens, pursuant to Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure Rule 3.220, and files the instant motion stating in support of the following. The defendant Sarah Boone is charged in the above styled numbered case in a one-count information with second-degree murder, which is punishable by up to life. The above styled and numbered case is currently set for jury selection on October 7th. Man, that's coming quick. Before the Honorable Judge Michael Kranick. Miss Boone, who was arrested on February 25th, 2020, a long time ago, after giving a statement to law enforcement at that time, she purportedly consented for her cell phone to be searched, and it was seized. It was purportedly video evidence from Miss Boone's cell phone, that led to the filing of the instant charges. Since February 25th, 2020, the defendant has been continuously in custody in the Orange County Jail without bond, and neither she nor her attorneys have had an opportunity to see and review her cell phone or to have it analyzed by an independent person or the defense team. Counsel on behalf of Ms. Boone has timely filed a notice of intent to use battered spouse defense. Much of the evidence in support of Ms. Boone's defense, including but not necessarily limited to battered spouse, is contained on her cell phone, including documentation to support this defense. The information contained on her cell phone includes, but is not limited to, text and photographs. Additionally, and perhaps as essential to her defense, is other potential evidence such as witnesses' names and contact information. The Office of the State Attorney and their agents have had this evidence, i.e. said cell phone, in their exclusive possession for their exclusive use and examination and analysis since February 25th, 2020, for 4.5 years. Presumably, the state's attorney office, with their vast resources, financial, technological, investigative, etc., has had sufficient time to review and analyze all data from said phone and to transfer and preserve all needed putative evidence without the necessity of maintaining physical possession of the cell phone. The defendant respectively moves the court for an order directing the immediate release of Ms. Boone's personal cell phone to her attorney or a member of the defense team acting on her behalf. Should the court not grant release of the cell phone to defense counsel, counsel would move in the alternative to examine said cell phone or to have a defense expert examine the phone to retrieve the much-needed evidence to support her defense. Without this evidence, Ms. Boone will be deprived of her rights under Florida law as well as federal constitutional mandates. Under the Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure, Rule 3.220, the prosecutor shall disclose to the defendant and permit the defendant to inspect, copy, test, and photograph any tangible objects that were obtained from the defendant. Yeah, that doesn't say you get your phone back, though. Should the defendant, counsel, and their representatives not be allowed to obtain Ms. Boone's cell phone, or at the minimum to obtain favorable evidence, not only will procedural state rules be violated, the result will become a violation under Brady v. Maryland. It's a Brady violation and progeny. Wherefore, premises considered, the defendant through counsel moves for the relief sought herein as well as other relief to which she may be entitled. That's Attorney Owens at his best, demanding the cell phone back, which they are not going to get. I'm calling that right now. They're not getting the cell phone. They can come and inspect it. That's fine, but I've never heard of them actually giving the cell phone. The cell phone has the video, like the video of George. All right. Interesting. Thank you, Greeners, for sending us that document. I've missed a couple chats here. I apologize. I was not looking. The only reason she wants her phone, she wants to delete the video, and she's like, "What video? I don't see it on my phone. You have a copy. That could be fake." AI wasn't a thing before that video was found. Let's see. Jules, earlier we had a comment from you waiting for the judge to tell her to say yes. The judge never did. The judge is fine with in this court in Mississippi. Pantufle, when was this treatment in relation to crime? She got seen right up until the day of. I think the day before was the last time she was seen by her counselor. Roof fun today, says Kelly Dede. Thank you very much, Kelly. Appreciate that. Crime and Punishment is one of my favorite books, says Shark. Her synopsis and analysis are almost entirely wrong. D, book report. A for effort, D for truthfulness. Correct part, a hatchet was used. Love that. Shark, thank you for the fact checking there. Inmate seeking phone. She needs to do a new ad. Why is she so obsessed? Rachel, let me tell you why I think Sarah Boone is obsessed. I think she thinks she can help her defense, like her personally. And in her mind, if she just had her phone, she would be able to scroll through and say, oh, we need to call this person, because she doesn't know off the top of her head those numbers, those contact information. She doesn't know what other pictures are out there. She probably thinks I've got pictures of fights or bruises or something that will show that there was an argument back and forth. Probably does. They probably exist. But in her mind, a forensic copy is, well, it's useless to her. It's great for an investigator, but she can't just scroll through her pictures on a forensic copy. It's a little bit more difficult, and she doesn't have the tools to do that. So she wants the copy so that she can help in her defense, is my guess. Greener says the irreconcilable differences that Sarah fired every other lawyer was clearly they wouldn't push enough to get her phone back. Sarah Boone has like 2 or 3 lawyers. I kid you not. She's got them lining up from multiple states, so they're going to get permission to operate in Florida. But she's got a couple lawyers now, most she's ever had, at least all at once. Miss the handwriting? I do as well. From 0 to 3. This just speaks to the effectiveness of advertising in general. Sarah's got it figured out. Makes sense because of all the problems with computers versus paper. I know we're not going to get into it on this, but I also heard, speaking of lawyers and lawyers that quit and lawyers that do join cases, I heard that a famous musician who's recently been in the news for some pretty horrendous, sorry, that was like a Freudian slip, allegations, heard his lawyer quit. and everyone's saying, did he quit? Yes, he quit. But heinous and horrendous said what? Yeah, that was not planned, you guys. That was an accident. I'm sorry. It gets worse. We make up words here, and that was apparently an effective one. Please don't ask Siri how to spell. I won't. I'm not. Siri needs to not listen to that. That was a bad one. That was very bad. It was a complete slip, and I did not mean to do it. We're going to cover the Boone trial. Yes, Mary, we are. We're working. We're still trying to get access into the court to have our people there. It's my plan. Actually, we're working with, I'm not sure if I should out this or not. We're working with Trial TV Live, friends of the channel, also fellow YouTubers interested in law and crime, or at least crime under the law. And they have a channel where they also seek to bring to light court cases, to make it available and transparent. And so we're trying to work together on this. They are going to be down there in person. We're going to try to send them my equipment, with them working for me on the reporting on that end, and get them physically there in the courthouse so we can get a direct feed from court. Thal, thank you for coming back right before the judge does. What do you have to say? You've got a knack for
Did
this.
you post
No,
short today?
I didn't.
Oh my God.
I don't think I've ever posted a short.
Listen, young man. Okay. Listen. Oh my God. What do I chat? Help me. Yell at RA to get him to post shorts 5 days a week. Okay. We want to get him to 100K subs a year. This guy will not cooperate with me no matter how much I yell at him. I need you, chat. I need you.
Okay. Here's what I'm Thal, you've seen that I've got this now, right? I've got this amazing, this is a shorts maker. I kid you not. That's what it does. It makes shorts. It's an instant replay machine. I can immediately grab a feed and have a clip available for replay. As soon as I've replayed it, it goes straight to a timeline, and I can hit one button and it will export it to YouTube. I just need to figure out the process. And
Scott, buddy, that's wonderful. Yeah. But you know what doesn't help? If you don't use it, okay? It's wonderful that you got it. I'm happy you got a toy. It's not going to do nothing unless you plug it in and you use it.
I've got it plugged in. It's working. I just...
Sure you do. Sure
I might
you
need
do.
help. I might need to reach out to Cat Chat.
I'm not buying it, chat. I'm not buying it. Miss RA, get in here. Get a club. Something. No.
She's going to hit me over the head with War and Peace or Crime
No,
and Punishment.
she's about to really hit you over the head. Okay, so let's go over some analytics real quick for you.
Oh, would you look at that? Looks
friend?
like they're back in court. Look at that.
No, you don't escape me.
We'll get there. Thal, I hear you. I'm a little scared. I don't just want people to subscribe because they saw a short that caught their attention. I love the community we have here. I'm nervous about just growing it. Okay, judge is back. Got to go. Sorry.
The defense ready.
Thanks, Thal.
All right, bring him in.
We'll see you. Hang up. We're bringing the jury.
If you will bring the jury.
For those that don't know, Thal is a good friend. It's everything he says is in jest, but he also means every word of it. He is an experienced YouTuber. He's built very, very big channels. He has other channels that he manages and runs. I've consulted with him for advice, so he knows of what she speaks. Oh, look, the judge has his own copy.
All right, state my
of
cause.
Crime and Punishment.
State calls Dr. Amanda Guglielmo.
I'll tell you, Ray, as we're nearing the end of the case, I am leaning towards there needs to be some punishment
Do you
here.
swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Have a seat. Again, you don't have to talk directly in the microphone, but make sure that gentleman up there can hear you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand you're now under oath and your answers will be sworn answers under penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do.
All right, you may proceed.
If you would, state your name for the record.
Amanda Guglielmo, Gugliano.
And Dr. Guglielmo, where are you currently employed?
I currently work at Mississippi State Hospital, and I also have a private practice where I do forensic psychological evaluations.
And if you could tell us just a little bit about what it is you do out at the Mississippi State Hospital.
I am the director of the Forensic Evaluation Service. So we are the only forensic service for the entire state. We do some outpatient evaluations, but now things have changed. It's mostly inpatient evaluations. And then, so we do inpatient evaluations for the court regarding competence to stand trial, someone's mental state at the time of the alleged offense, and sometimes some other factors too, such as mitigating circumstances or a violence risk assessment. Then we also provide treatment for individuals who have been found not guilty by reason of insanity, and we provide treatment for people who have been found incompetent to stand trial, and we're attempting to restore them to competence.
And you talked about the fact that you, are a forensic psychologist that you also perform private evaluations or do something on the side. Can you talk about that, please?
Yes, I have a private practice where I conduct forensic evaluations for both the state and the federal court. And those are typically related to the similar issues as I do for the state hospital: competence to stand trial, mental state at the time of the alleged offense. I have also done some death penalty evaluations if someone's competent to waive or assert post-conviction appeals, or competence to proceed with post-conviction appeals also.
And when you're doing these evaluations, who are you usually doing those on behalf of?
Most often it's court ordered. So it's, in my opinion, when something's court order, I consider that as the court's expert. My report goes to the court, and then both sides usually get a copy of it. Sometimes I am retained privately by one side, either the defense or the prosecution, and then I'm conducting the evaluation for them. So the person that I'm actually seeing and evaluating is not my client. It's the court or whichever attorney retained me.
And so if they're not your client, you're not actually providing them any type of treatment, right?
That's correct.
Could you give the ladies and gentlemen a little bit of information about your educational background?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology and a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology from Lindenwood University, which is a private liberal arts school in Missouri. I received my master's in clinical psychology from the Arizona School of Professional Psychology in 2006, and I received my doctorate in clinical psychology from the Arizona School of Professional Psychology in 2008.
And do you have any type of licensure or certifications here in Mississippi?
Yes, I'm a licensed psychologist in Mississippi, and then I'm also certified as a forensic evaluator by the Department of Mental Health.
Tell us a little bit about what that means, evaluator through the Mississippi Department of Mental Health.
Yes, so the Department of Mental Health has a process where they train and credential psychologists or psychiatrists to be forensic evaluators. So they are credentialed to do evaluations of competence to stand trial or mental state at the time of the alleged offense.
Do you know how many of them are approved in the state currently?
I'm not sure our current numbers. There are some that are approved who don't reside in Mississippi. They do telehealth evaluations. I think we have around 20 right now, maybe, but not all of them reside in Mississippi.
And so that's 20 psychologists and psychiatrists that are have meet the qualifications for the Mental Department of Health to do the evaluations?
Yes, that meet the qualifications and have applied to do those.
Do you belong to any sort of national or state level committees, any type of groups regarding psychologists?
Yes, I'm a member of the American Psychological Association. I'm also a member of the American Psychology and Law Society, which focuses on forensic psychology. I am a member of the Mississippi Psychological Association, and I'm also the president-elect for the Mississippi Psychological Association.
And I know we talked about the fact that you perform these types of evaluations for both, most of the time for the court, but also sometimes for the party that asks. How many times would you say that you have evaluated someone either for competency or sanity?
For competency, probably around 1,500 times. For sanity, probably around 500 times.
That's a lot.
And have you testified in courts as an expert, as a forensic psychologist previously?
Yes, I have.
And how often would you say you've done that?
Probably about, I don't know exactly, about 45 times.
And you've actually been recognized by this particular court as a forensic psychologist expert, right?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, at this time, we would ask that the witness be tendered as an expert witness in forensic psychology.
No objection, Your Honor. I believe her CV has already been entered by stipulation.
All right, she'll be accepted as an expert in the field of forensic psychology.
Dr. Guglielmo, if you could tell the ladies and gentlemen the difference in like a treating physician or therapist and a forensic psychologist.
So it's a pretty different situation. I mentioned before, whenever you are treating someone, whenever you're the clinician, either a psychiatrist or psychologist, therapist, you're more of an advocate for the client, the person that you're treating, and you are treating and assessing them based on what they're telling you, usually for the most part. A lot of times treating clinicians don't have much information or records outside of what the client tells them. So they just go off of what they see in front of them and what the client tells them. In doing forensic evaluations, the person that you're actually evaluating and talking to and assessing is not your client. As I mentioned before, it's the court or potentially a lawyer. It could also be one of the parents if there's like a child custody dispute and you're doing that type of evaluation, but typically it's the lawyer or the court. And in that case, you are not an advocate for the person that you're evaluating. You are supposed to be a neutral, objective evaluator who forms opinions based on the information that you have, and you offer those to the court. So there's no guarantee that it will be helpful or not to either side or to the court. It also, when you're a forensic evaluator, it's not confidential because you have to share the information that you gather with the court in a report, or you may end up testifying. I always warn people of that also. So it's also different in that doing a forensic evaluation, because there's legal issues involved, you rely on more than just the person's self-report. It's really important to have collateral sources of information. So you are always trying to corroborate what someone tells you to see if there's evidence in the records to support what they're telling you. Do other people say the same thing? You often interview friends or family, maybe even an employer of the person that you're evaluating. So it's not as clear that you're just taking what the person tells you as the truth. You're wanting to look for corroborating evidence and find where all the data is kind of pointing you. What direction is it all suggesting?
And you spoke earlier, Dr. Gugliano, about competence and maybe somebody's sanity. If you could kind of describe for us what competency is first.
Competency in general can be applied to various different things. It's situation specific. And what it essentially means is that someone has the ability to do something. So it could be competence to make legal decisions, or competence to be over your own medical care, financial situation, things like that. In the realm of criminal cases, competence is typically referred to for competence to stand trial or to proceed with their legal situation. And so that means, does the person have the ability to understand their charges, to understand the basics about the court system and how that works, to be able to appreciate the adversarial nature of the legal system, and that they're able to assist their attorney in their defense. So competence really has to do with someone's mental functioning presently, in the current moment. Sanity, or mental state at the time of an alleged offense, has to do with how someone was doing mentally at the time of an offense sometime in the past. So it's a retrospective evaluation where you're trying to figure out whether someone was so mentally ill that it impaired their ability to know the nature, quality, or wrongfulness of their alleged acts.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Is there a certain standard in the state of Mississippi that forensic psychiatrists and psychologists have to follow when rendering opinions about sanity?
Yes.
Could you tell the ladies and gentlemen about that? I think you sort of described that, but just want you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yes, the standards is what we often call the McNaughton standard, because that's the criminal case that the standard developed out of. The person who was the defendant was Daniel McNaughton. And so the McNaughton standard is what we refer to as a cognitive test That means that it's just based on someone's knowledge about something. So it's, do they know the nature and quality? That essentially means, do they understand the basic facts about what they did? Then understanding the wrongfulness is, did they understand that what they were doing was illegal? So some states have different standards. So some states include whether someone had the ability to control their impulses or whether they appreciated the wrongfulness, but in Mississippi it's just a knowledge of what they were doing and if it was wrong.
So I want to be clear, you said something about other states allow whether somebody appreciated what they did was right or wrong. Can you describe for us what you meant by that?
Yes. So knowledge is really just understanding the basic facts about something. Appreciating is having a more in-depth understanding to where you can understand the societal and moral implications behind it and reasoning for it. So for example, someone might know that killing someone is wrong, that it's illegal, but they may not really understand why it's wrong to do that. They know that it's bad, they know they're not supposed to, but they really don't understand why. So that would be more the appreciation, where they don't understand the reasoning behind why it's wrong.
And Mississippi doesn't allow us to talk about the appreciation of someone, right?
It doesn't include that in the standard.
I want to talk to you about the defendant, Gregg. How is it that you became, or did you have the opportunity to work on an evaluation involving Gregg?
I did.
And how is it that you became involved in that case?
You contacted me to see if I would be available to do an evaluation of Miss Gregg's competence to stand trial and sanity.
And was it your understanding that you were being court ordered for that?
It was.
And is that how you went about your evaluation?
Yes, it is.
And in fact, we talked a little bit about how that's different, but when you're court ordered to do it, you said you returned that report to the court and the defense attorneys, right?
Yes. Actually, in Mississippi, I submit my report to the circuit clerk, and then the circuit clerk distributes it to the judge, defense attorney, and prosecution.
Does the prosecution have any ability to edit the report that you prepare?
No.
Does the prosecution actually really have any input into what you put into your report?
No.
And sometimes those reports actually come back and say that the defendant is incompetent to go forward, right?
Correct.
And sometimes you will render an opinion that the defendant is in fact insane.
Correct.
I want to talk to you about this particular case. Dr. Guglielmo, did you prepare a report regarding your findings?
I did.
And are the opinions that you formulated in that report, are those based upon a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
To a reasonable degree of psychological certainty, because I'm not a medical doctor, so we use psychological certainty for psychologists.
Thank you for that clarification. And what types of items did you review before rendering your opinion in this case?
I reviewed some court orders involving this case. I reviewed some of the discovery materials. I also had some treatment records, not all of the ones that have been talked about so far by other experts. I had the Magnolia counseling records, so Miss Kirk's records from the therapy. I also had precise clinical neurosciences records from the medication that she was being prescribed. I had a few records from the jail from her current incarceration related to some crisis contacts, but I did not have any records regarding the medication that she was being prescribed in jail. Then I also spoke with Ms. Newman about her concerns regarding the case, and I spoke to Ms. Todd, the defense attorney, about any concerns she had regarding the case.
Did you interview anybody besides the defendant in this case?
No, I attempted to interview her stepfather, but he had asked to have his attorney present, which I said was okay, and he was going to call me back where we could set up a time to do that, but he never returned my call.
Why is it important to try to talk to family members before you conduct your evaluation?
I do that because I'm trying to see if there's anything that they say that that will give me an idea of what to follow up on, or there may be something that isn't in the records that they're aware of. And sometimes they can give you a direction to go with your questioning. I do a pretty broad evaluation, but if there are any significant concerns or specific concerns, I want to make sure that I know about them so I can ask about them when I interview the defendant.
And Dr. Gano, you just testified about some of the things that you reviewed, that you had conversations with both my office and the defense. Is that information, facts, and data that you typically rely on in conducting your mental health evaluations?
Yes, it is.
And is that information that is pretty regular for a forensic psychologist to consider when forming their opinions with regards to competency or sanity?
Yes.
Did you actually have the opportunity to speak with Ms. Gregg?
Yes, I did.
Was that interview recorded?
It was.
And do you record all your interviews?
I record most of them. There's a few times that I haven't for the federal courts because the attorneys have not wanted me to.
And why is it that you record those interviews?
I record them in case I need to refer back to my notes. I take notes while I'm interviewing someone, but I like to be as accurate as possible, and I really think that quotes are helpful for either a court or a jury, for either the judge or the jury, whoever's making the decision, to see what people actually say. So I record it for my benefit, and then I also record it in case someone wants to get the recording so they can listen to it. I try to have transparency in my evaluations. I'm not trying to do anything that I wouldn't want recorded. So it's to help just confirm what I'm reporting in my report.
When you're conducting one of these evaluations, Dr. Giuliano, is it your role to favor one side or the other?
No, as a forensic evaluator, your goal is to be as objective and unbiased and neutral as possible.
How often, when you're doing these evaluations, do you actually have mental health records from the day before a crime was committed?
Very rarely.
And how often do you get the opportunity to have a video where part of the crime is committed on the video to consider? It's not unheard of, but it's not in the majority of cases. I want to talk to you about the interview that you did at the defendant. Who was present during that evaluation?
It was myself, Miss Gregg, and Miss Todd.
And is it common in your practice for attorneys to be present during the evaluations?
I wouldn't say that it's uncommon. It doesn't happen in the majority of cases, but it's not unusual.
How often, when you have attorneys sit in, is it common for them to make comments during the evaluation?
Most attorneys don't say much during the evaluation unless the defendant asks them a question. I always let both the defendant and the attorney know at the beginning that if the defendant wants to consult with their attorney during the evaluation, we can stop and they can consult in private, or the defendant can even ask their attorney for guidance at any point without us also stopping the interview. So it happens, but most of the time when it happens, it's the defendant who initiates the consult with the attorney in the moment.
And in your training and experience and all the evaluations that you perform, is it unusual for an attorney to be asking their client multiple questions instead of you during an evaluation?
Yes, I would say that's unusual.
Sounds like we get to
Dr.
listen
Gano, I
to
want
this.
to talk to you about the specific findings in your evaluation. Can you tell us when you conducted that evaluation and sort of walk us through what happened?
We met in a room at the detention center, and it was for several hours. I think we were probably meeting for about 5 hours, but we had several brief breaks in that time to where the interview was a little over 4 hours, and we had a break for lunch also. But essentially it was me asking the majority of the questions to Miss Gregg, and Miss Todd interjected at some points, but that was pretty much it.
Were there things that Miss Todd shared with you that were not provided to you in discovery?
Yes.
Is that typical in cases when you have evaluations?
It's not unheard of. Miss Todd shared some things with me on the phone. I talked to her before I met with Miss Gregg to do the interview. So she had shared some things with me on the phone that I was not aware of at that point. And that's one of the reasons that I call attorneys, is to see if they have any information that may be helpful.
And when they give you that information, you then try to follow up, get some sort of confirmation about those statements or what that information was?
Yes.
What, if anything, did Ms. Gregg tell you during your evaluation about the use of illegal drugs?
She told me that she was smoking marijuana through a vape pen, and she denied any other illicit or illegal substance use.
What did she tell you about abusing any other prescription medication?
She didn't answer that question.
And was that important to you?
It's a regular question that I ask when doing an evaluation. Both illegal drugs and prescription drugs, or even over-the-counter medications, can have impacts on someone's mental health or in their functioning. So I routinely ask those questions.
And if someone were to have been on a prescription drug at the time of the crime, it would have been important for you to be able to explore that a little bit further, right?
I would definitely want to know if they were on medications at the time, or if they were taking anything that wasn't prescribed to them.
And if so somebody wasn't truthful or didn't provide you an answer about that, that would impair your ability to make a decision about anything regarding medication. Is that correct?
It might not impair my ability. I'm limited in what I can say about medications. I don't prescribe medications. So I'm limited in what I can say about that, but it could limit things such as, it might be a consideration that someone's actions, feelings, behaviors could have potentially been due to a drug or medication. And so if you don't know that they were using that, then you wouldn't know that that's a potential factor.
I want to back up just a little bit. The defendant told you that she'd been using marijuana. You have the opportunity to review prior medical records in this case. Did you see anywhere in her prior records where she had reported the use of marijuana?
I believe she had reported it to the jail, maybe, after she was arrested.
Prior to March 19th of 2024, had she told any of her treaters that she was using marijuana?
From the records that I reviewed, she had not.
From the records that you reviewed prior to March the 19th, 2024, had she ever reported to anyone that she was having voices in her head?
No, she did not.
prior to March 19th of 2024, in the records you reviewed, had she reported to anyone that she was having lapses in time?
She did not.
And did you find anything that was provided to you by either side to corroborate that Miss Gregg was having lapses in time?
Miss Todd told me during our telephone conversation that Miss Gregg's stepfather had mentioned that Miss Gregg was having lapses in time and kind of spacing out. And so I asked Miss Gregg about that during my interview of her.
But you weren't able to corroborate that with him?
No, I wasn't able to speak with Mr. Smiley.
I want to talk to you about the use of marijuana. In your experience, can the use of drugs alone cause some sort of psychosis?
It can.
And what about marijuana or THC alone?
It can. We thought previously there was a common belief that marijuana was fairly benign, but there are higher levels of THC in most marijuana now, or a lot of marijuana now. And so with the more potent marijuana, it is possible that people can experience symptoms of psychosis just from marijuana use.
When we're talking about symptoms of psychosis, can you describe for us what you mean by that?
That could be hallucinations, such as seeing things or hearing things that aren't really there and that other people don't see. It could be delusional beliefs, which are beliefs that are untrue, but the person staunchly believes that regardless of the facts or evidence presented to them that dispute those beliefs. It could also be mood symptoms like an emotional flattening to where they don't seem to have the normal range of emotions that most people experience. It could even be slowed thinking or slowed body movements.
During your interview with Miss Gregg, did you talk to her about some things that might have been bothering her at the current time?
Yes, I did.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, may I refer to my...
Absolutely.
I always ask people that I'm evaluating, if you had to pick the one thing that was bothering you the most lately, what would that be? Because it's a pretty open-ended question, and it can kind of give you a good idea of what is, on that person's mind maybe the most. And Miss Gregg reported that she was bothered that she knew school was getting ready to start up or had just started back, and she missed school because she said she really enjoyed school and that had been a main focus of her life. She also discussed feelings of sadness, difficulty sleeping. She reported having mood swings.
What did she say about her mood swings?
She said that they could occur minute by minute or could happen over the course of weeks or days or months. She said, when I asked her to provide some additional clarification, she said, quote, "I'll be really happy 1 minute, then I'll be desolate the next," close quote. So she was describing, it seemed to me, pretty quickly fluctuating mood states that appeared at least somewhat dependent on her situation and what was going on with her in her life.
Dr. Gano, you were in the courtroom during the testimony earlier where somebody had mentioned that Miss Gregg's father potentially had bipolar disorder. Can you describe for the ladies and gentlemen what bipolar disorder, I think it's type 2, is?
Yes, there's 2 different types. I'm not sure which one Mr. Gregg has been diagnosed with. Type 1 involves episodes of mania, which you guys had heard about previously. It's whenever someone has the really high emotional experiences, they have a lot of energy, They may feel like they're on top of the world, really happy, feel invincible, have trouble focusing. They may start a whole bunch of tasks but never finish anything. They can be more irritable. And it's so severe that it impairs their everyday functioning. Then bipolar 2 disorder is kind of a less extreme version of mania that we refer to as hypomania, where they're elevated more than what is normal, but it's not quite to what we consider a manic episode.
And when you're talking about a hypomanic or an episode in bipolar, is that consistent with somebody whose mood can change minute to minute?
No.
Could you describe for us why not?
Yes, for bipolar disorder, it's something that isn't based on someone's situation. They really have no control over their emotions. It's not due to something good happening in their life or something bad that's happened in their life. And for a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, they have to experience either the manic episode for 1 week, where from every day, more days than not, that they're in this hyper aroused state. For hypomania, they have to experience it for at least 4 days in a row. And so that's not something where you would see fluctuations within the same day or hours.
After 4 days, you call your doctor.
Carly, and your review of the medical records, was it ever disclosed that she had these periods of time that were 4 days or more?
She didn't specify an exact number of days. As I mentioned before, she said, it could be hours, days, weeks.
You spoke with Ms. Gregg about mood swings, and then she described for you at some point during your interview, I'm very detached, and I think you asked her to elaborate on that. Do you recall what Ms. Gregg told you regarding feeling detached?
Yes. So I was asking her questions that can sometimes be commonly found in people who have experienced traumatic experiences. So symptoms that sometimes indicate someone may have post-traumatic stress disorder. And we were talking about anxiety also, and how she didn't feel as bothered as she thought she should have felt by being in jail. And so I was asking her more about that, and Miss Todd offered that Miss Gregg appeared to be detached, and that Miss Todd thought that might have been due to Miss Gregg being in solitary confinement. She'd been housed by herself in the jail since she's a minor, so she has little interaction with other people other than the guards when they interact with her. And so I asked Carly about that, and she said, I'm very detached. And she said, and when I asked her to describe that a little further, she said, quote, I think when my mom would get on me, I would kind of slip away and not be in the room. I just kind of feel like it wasn't real. I think that's how I am now because all this doesn't feel real. I mean, logically it is, it just doesn't feel that way, close quote.
And then you went on, Dr. Gugliano, to ask her about blackouts. Can you tell ladies and gentlemen what y'all's conversation about blackouts was?
Yes.
Appreciate all the likes on the channel. It really does help us out. Thank you so much.
For reference, I think that's on the same page we were just looking at, same paragraph.
Okay. I had asked her if she ever experienced a blackout, and she said that's kind of what happened with the incident, the alleged offense. She discussed further about the blackout, saying that she would just kind of space out, and I believe she said in particular whenever, like if her mom was yelling at her, or she was in trouble with her mom or something like that.
Did she ever use the words derealized?
She did not.
What about the word disassociation or disassociated?
No, she did not use those words.
Did she reveal to you that she was having intrusive memories regarding the crimes committed in this case?
Yes, she did.
Could you tell ladies and gentlemen about that?
Yes, so intrusive memories are just memories that someone is doing something else. They're not purposely thinking about something, and the memories just pop into their head. And once they get in their head and once they're thinking about them, it's really hard to stop thinking about them. It's hard to let go of those memories. And so I don't think at that point that I asked her for details about the intrusive memories regarding the offenses, because I had not yet determined whether she was competent to stand trial, and talking about that could have potentially revealed incriminating information. So I was waiting until later to ask that, and we never ended up circling back to that.
And Dr. Giuliani, was there anything about your conversation where somebody said something about feeling queasy when they were thinking about the event?
Yes.
Tell me about that, if you would.
Carly reported that sometimes when she thought about the alleged offenses that she would feel queasy.
And what else did she say about being paranoid?
She described having thoughts that bad things were going to happen, such as that someone would jump on her in the jail or things like that. And in my experience and opinion, that's more consistent with anxiety than delusional paranoia. Whenever people kind of have those thoughts where they just worry about all these things that could potentially happen, that is symptomatic. You know, they often say that I'm paranoid that these things are going to happen, but they're not using it in the clinical sense of paranoia, and it's not what I would think of in the clinical sense as paranoia, as like psychotic paranoia.
I want to take a step back, Dr. Gano. The word queasy, and you talked about that Carly said she felt queasy when thinking about the event. Can you elaborate on what that meant?
I didn't ask her, but I was assuming that it meant sick to her stomach.
About the crimes that had been committed?
About something in relation to them. I didn't ask for any specifics.
At some point, Dr. Giuliano, did you have a discussion with Carly about whether or not she was hearing voices?
Yes, I did.
And what did she say about the voices?
She said that she had been hearing one voice, a male voice, since she was
6.
Young. I think she said maybe around like 5 or 6 years old, which is unusual. And she said that she heard the voice every day and that it was always kind of there in the background, but she could usually ignore it and tune it out.
You said that it was unusual that somebody would start hearing a voice at 5 or 6. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, that's not really consistent with a psychotic disorder. Typically, people start having symptoms of psychosis for women in their early to mid 20s. For men, it's late teens, early 20s. It's very unusual for a young child, to have what are actually hallucinations. And it's possible that it wasn't what we would clinically consider a hallucination. It could be, as a kid, it could be something like their own inner thoughts or their inner dialogue, and they don't recognize that as what that is.
She described those voices that she was hearing them every single day.
Yes.
Is that common in people in that age group?
No.
What did she say about whether or not these voices ever told her to do anything?
She said the voices never told her to do anything. She said that they made snide comments about other people and just really rude comments, kind of talking down about other people. I specifically asked her if the voices ever told her or said anything about her mom or her stepdad, and she said no.
You were present in the courtroom yesterday during Dr. Clark's testimony, right?
Yes.
And you heard mention that Carly had disclosed to an employee through Vital Court that in fact her mom, she heard voices that told her to harm her mom.
Yes, that's what Dr. Clark said.
So there's records saying Carly said, the voices told me to hurt mom, but that's not what she reported to you.
Correct.
Dr. Guglielmo, as part of your evaluation regarding competency, one of the things you consider is the defendant's ability to recall facts. Could you tell the ladies and gentlemen why that's important?
That is a requirement specifically for Mississippi. Most other states don't have that as part of their competence to stand trial requirement. There's not a clear definition of what is specifically meant by that in the standard. The general interpretation that I have for it is that it means that someone can recall basic information about their case. If they have a discussion with their attorney, are they able to remember what they talked about? What do they remember about the alleged offenses? If they don't have a good memory or don't remember the alleged offenses, are they able to go over the evidence and remember the evidence enough to be able to help their attorney prepare their defense?
And in this case, what did you find regarding Ms. Gregg's ability to remember relevant facts about the alleged offense?
It was my opinion that she had the ability to recall relevant facts. We talked about the month leading up to the alleged offenses and what all was going on with her then, and her report was fairly consistent with the records that I had available. She also did not demonstrate any current memory deficits that would have been concerning. So I didn't talk to her about that day in particular because I didn't end up evaluating her sanity at the time of the alleged offense. So I don't know exactly what all she recalls from that particular day.
With regards to your evaluation, did you in fact find a forensic opinion regarding Carly's ability to proceed to trial and competency?
Yes, it was my opinion that she had the ability to do so.
And is that to a reasonable degree of psychological certainty?
It is.
And again, just to kind of go through those factors with us, the ability to understand the nature and the proceedings against her.
Yes.
And then what else is that?
The ability to rationally communicate with her attorney about her case, the ability to recall relevant facts, and the ability to testify in her own defense if she chose to do so.
And in fact, you found that Carly was competent.
That was my opinion. I don't decide that. That's up to the court to decide.
And in this particular case, Dr. Guglielmo, did you send your report to the clerk's office like you do when you're court ordered to perform an evaluation?
I did.
No further questions, Your Honor.
No approach.
So no further questions. Let's see if this wraps everything up or if they have one more witness after this.
Lunch is here and set up and ready for y'all, so we're going to take a recess till at least 12:30. Remember not to discuss anything about the case at this point. Everyone, just whenever you're done, around 12:30 or thereafter, it's y'all's lunch, knock on the door and let the bailiffs know you're ready. Okay, everyone please remain seated while the jury exits.
That's terrible timing for us, Judge, if you want to reconsider, because that is exactly the time that Sarah Boone's hearing is going to begin today, in 45 minutes as well. pork chops. Judge is all about going to the bathroom and getting lunch. That's about it. I actually like him. I do. I like judges with personality, and he's got a unique one.
All right, the record will reflect we're outside the presence of the jury. Dr. Gugliano, you'll be free to leave during lunch. Be back no later.
Free to move around the cabin.
No later, 12:20. Yes, sir. Okay. We'll be in recess till, do not discuss your testimony with anybody. Okay. The court will be in recess till at least 12:20. All right. See y'all then.
All right. On that note, we're going to go have a lunch break as well. I'm not sure if we have pork chops on the menu. If Amber's in my neck of the woods, I need to clean up my studio. You guys cannot see this, but I've told you I have like, I don't know, 100 and something cables. I use about 78 of them to run the show. Everything that I'm not using is piled on the floor behind. I mean, you can sort of see it right down there. There's cables just everywhere. I've had everything out because I was working my audio box last night, making sure everything was working there. It's a mess. Now Amber's like, oh, by the way, I'm in your neighborhood. Love Tech Talk. We can do that any day of the week, especially maybe tonight. We've got the podcast tonight. Not stopping. It's not clean, Amber. It's a mess. We're still unpacking. Since we have a minute, can you play the piano music and Google hear it so we can match the name again? Groovy, sure. You want sad piano? I think you want sad piano music. That's this one. Is that enough music for you? It's sad. I want to start crying just listening to the music. Hopefully that's enough to get the song for you. It's a great song. We will use it periodically in court when it's appropriate. But I prefer sad violin. I'm going to have another song soon. It's going to be by Winter Garden, and it's much more upbeat and energetic, more break type music. I just know that song by Sad Piano. But I'm sure somebody can find the link. Portal. We will make a portal to this afternoon session because I'm not going to be able to live stream both Sarah Boone's hearing and the afternoon session at the same time. Let me make a portal to the afternoon. We're wrapping up. The state is almost done. They finished 3 witnesses this morning. They said they have at least one more. They haven't made a final decision. There might be more, but I think there's just going to be one more. And it will probably be a shorter witness. I think this was one of the lengthier witnesses because she's an expert. But let's see here. We're going to do one more of those. This is day 4, part 2 is what's going to happen in the afternoon. The judge said come back at 12:45, right? Did he say 12:30? I think he said 12:30, which should be 1:30 for us. So we're going to come back at probably 1:20. Give us 10 minutes or so to get in our seats and organized before trial starts. I'm going to start the new 12:20. Okay. 12:20 is 1:20 Eastern time because they're Central time. But we'll be back. Adam, the sorting chat, beat Greeners by a millisecond on the new stream. So that's exciting. I will set up a portal. We can all go over there and talk about what we've seen today so far. Our thoughts on the case, because it is very close to wrapping up here and going to closing statements, closing arguments, and a verdict watch. I think definitely we'll be there before the weekend. All right, save. Portal is built. Adam committed a flagrant foul, says Greeners. I have not made any new merch type stuff. I really suck at that. I kid you not. That's not my thing. I'm not the guy that sells stuff. I love true crime. That's my true love. I love true crime technology. That's it. But Taylor, welcome. Good to have you back here. Wonderful. I want to say thanks to Legal Vices and all the raiders that came as well. Thanks for all the likes and for the subscribers as well. We saw a little bump in the numbers there. So thank you all. Let's see, anything else we need to talk about over lunch? We talked about Sarah Boone's motion. She has a hearing today, which will probably address some of the motions that have been filed already. She's less than a month away from trial, and I think that date's going to stick. We did Amber and R8 to share a mic this afternoon. Buttercup with credit card on the T-shirts. That would be great. I could take a picture of all the pile of cables on my floor and just put it on the shirt. And just at the bottom it says, if you know, you know. That's going to be it. What's Adam's new name? Adam's name is, let me see. I show him as the sorting chat still. Lita, I apologize. I did autograph your shirt for you, but it's the probably the worst autograph I've ever done. It's so hard to draw on shirts. I mean, we spread it out on the car and everything, but cloth and the markers, they just don't go well together. But you have I would say one of a kind. There are only two of a kind. Hey, Mrs. R.A., welcome. You were. All right, we're going to go to lunch. Everyone have some food. Get your rest. Have a bathroom break, as the judge would say. And come back. We're going to start here in less than an hour. Probably in about 30 minutes or so, we're going to be back. I will have the portal open so you can join us. Please hit the like button when you land there. It helps the channel a ton. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. Please stay safe till we go live again in about half an hour. We will see you then over there. Eat some protein. I've had these delicious chewy, they're tiny. They're chewy granola bars. My hands are not ginormous. These are tiny. They're getting smaller and smaller. I'm signing off. For now, we'll be back in a little bit. Climbing the cable mount. I've got some cleaning to do. Some frantic cleaning. All right. I think that's everything. We covered it all. You guys, will see you right after the break. If I get my... close the window I need. Hang on. Software control. ATIM. It's loading. Please wait. There we go. All right. I just had to have my logo up. All right. We'll beam you over. Portal is opening in just a second. Just sit tight. You guys have a good one. Bye.